Chapter 1366. The second step of primordial chaos was finally achieved. To Liu, this was already a huge leap, a fundamental transformation. All along, Liu's cultivation path had been to advance the three treasures of essence, energy, and spirit. At this level, essence and energy had already reached the end. He was only one step away from truly becoming the master of primordial chaos, the source of everything. But the journey is 100 half 90. The closer to the end, the more difficult it is to advance. This final step, deification of primordial chaos, was to transform one's consciousness into the state of primordial chaos. What was the state of primordial chaos? There was no order or law, no matter or energy. Everything returned to nothingness. If one's consciousness became a state of primordial chaos, then where would one's consciousness be? Where would one's memories be? Where would one's self be? This was the biggest problem. If one's consciousness and memories were gone, then one's self would naturally cease to exist. This third step of primordial chaos is the biggest challenge. A sword rises from the heart lake, slashing others as well as one's self. This was easy to say, but difficult to do. If one's consciousness and memories were all destroyed with a single slash of the sword, even one's self would cease to exist, then what was the point? Let's take it one step at a time. Liu let out a long sigh, shook his head, and took a step forward, arriving at the real world outside of the primordial chaos world. I was born here. Looking up at this scientific real world without the slightest bit of spirit chi, Liu suddenly realized that this real-world space was actually the very center of the Pearl of Origin. The entire world of the Pearl of Origin was like an egg. The real world was the yolk, the primordial chaos world was the white. Heaven and earth were primordial like chicken eggs. Pangu was born within. 18,000 years old. Heaven and earth were created. Clear yang as heaven. Turbid yin as earth. Liu recalled this ancient text, deep in thought. This world of origin in front of him was very similar to the situation described in this ancient text. More importantly, after becoming the master of the Origin Pearl, Liu had discovered that the world within the Origin Pearl had a very complicated relationship with him. It didn't seem like Liu gave birth to this world at all. Instead, it was more like this world was born because of Liu. Perhaps. I am Pangu. Pangu was born from the chaos, so the title of Son of Chaos was very appropriate. When Xinyuanzi and the other two saw Liu, they asked, "Are you Pangu?" At this moment, Liu suddenly realized that the possibility of him being Pangu was not small. Perhaps, countless years ago, Pangu, was born in the chaos of the origin bead. Then, I created the world in the origin bead. Liu frowned and shook his head again. If I were Pangu, it would be fine if I created the primeval world, but why did I create a reality? Did Pangu know everything about the real world? In the reality, there were also legends of Pangu creating the heavens, Nuwa creating man, the three pure jade emperors, and so on. Liu didn't believe that the two had nothing to do with each other. But where did the reality in the Origin Pearl come from? Who had created it? Even though he controlled the Origin Pearl, Liu still couldn't find any information in this regard. With all the order and rules in the Origin Pearl, Liu had long been able to reverse time and trace the past at will. But he couldn't trace the origin of this world. It seems that the Origin Pearl is more complicated than I thought. The Origin Pearl attracted the group of people from the Celestial Emperor of Taishan to fight endlessly. It definitely contains secrets that Liu didn't know. Is the Origin Pearl very useful? It seems. I've seen another Origin Pearl before. Liu recalled that he'd been possessed by the Celestial Emperor of Taishan. After killing one of his avatars, the Taishan heaven and earth had self-destructed the graveyard world. As a result, Liu had been swept into the chaotic turbulence and landed in a destroyed world of the Origin Pearl. In the world of the Pearl of Origin, Liu also saw a group of silver-armored divine generals being executed. Just what secrets does the Origin Pearl contain? Liu looked up at the void beyond. The eye of primal chaos pierced through space-time and saw the world of the Origin Pearl that he'd once visited. It It was still in ruins. However, the moment Li Yu's gaze touched this world, touched the Pearl of Origin, the Pearl of Origin seemed to awaken. Rumble. An invisible vibration was clearly transmitted to Li Yu's senses, even though they were separated by endless time and space. Joy, adoration, resentment, feeling aggrieved. When the tremors came, Li Yu could clearly sense all sorts of emotions within them. Could it be that the Pearl of Origin is still alive? Li Yu was alarmed. He hurriedly shot through space, traversing space-time to land in the dilapidated world inside the Origin Pearl. What greeted him was still a shattered world, deathly still and eerie, devoid of any signs of life. Silver-armored warriors had been impaled by spears and stood upright on the ground. Apart from that, there was only a desolate and broken world. Or you might as well. The Origin Pearl was actually emitting fluctuations of emotion, which greatly shocked Li Yu. A single Pearl of Origin was a vast, boundless world. A world with emotions and consciousness that was a little too strange. Although it wasn't that Li Yu hadn't seen such things before, he really didn't like them. "I'd like to see what's going on." Standing in the middle of the dilapidated world, Li Yu's body burst forth with an endless radiance. Chaos chi billowed out and swept out, covering the entire world. BZZ. When the primal chaos chi that Li Yu released enveloped the entire world, the world began to tremble slightly. In just a moment, the dilapidated world was already under Li Yu's control. This really is an Origin Pearl, and it's called Firmament? Now that he had control of the Origin Pearl, Li Yu learned of its origins. It was Firmament, one of the 9 skies. There were a total of 9 Origin Pearls. The one in Li Yu's Great Desolate World was called Great Sky. The one in the Ruined World was called Firmament. Why doesn't it have any consciousness? Li Yu had clearly sensed all sorts of emotions earlier, but after taking control of Firmament, he couldn't sense any consciousness at all. This origin bead, called Firmament, was merely a world, an artifact without any sentience. Those emotions, where did they come from? Moreover, how was this world destroyed? What is the background of those silver-armored generals that were executed? Li Yu took in a deep breath and activated the time reversal ability, preparing to search for the past of the world of heaven. And then, Li Yu was stunned by what he saw. Chapter 1367. Going against the flow of the river of time. Countless scenes flashed before Li Yu's eyes, until he saw war. Or was it a massacre? That was a long time ago. This Firmament world was still a flourishing world full of vitality. Auspicious clouds lingered in the sky. The earth was green, and the vast ocean was surging up and down. Towering and magnificent palaces and countless floating islands floated between heaven and earth. There were celestial birds flying and strange beasts galloping. The entire Firmament world was prosperous and prosperous. In the middle of the Firmament world, there was a vast and boundless celestial mountain that pierced through the clouds. It was both a mountain and a city. The entire celestial mountain, with a radius of 1,000,000 miles, was a vast and boundless imperial city. The majestic and magnificent palace was brilliant like the rosy clouds. There was only one master in the Firmament world. He was called the Firmament Emperor. He was a supreme being at the second step of the Chaos realm. He was in charge of the Firmament world in the lower 3 realms. He was supreme, and his power shook the heavens. However, boom, the next moment, there was an earth-shattering explosion in the void. The sky shattered. The sky was filled with green light. A huge green pillar, covered with countless spikes, smashed into the Firmament world like an iron rod smashing into an egg. Destruction. Destruction. Annihilation. It was as if the end of the world had come. This prosperous world welcomed its final destruction. The giant spike-covered club destroyed this world with one strike. Everything was destroyed. The stars fell, the void was annihilated, and the earth was shattered. All living things in the world were smashed into ashes. Queen, why? What did I do wrong? Why are you doing this to me? In the destroyed world, a figure shot up into the sky, and turned into a huge green dragon that was hundreds of millions of miles long. This huge dragon that seemed to have crossed the sky looked at the sky with grief and anger. It looked at the giant green club that had smashed the firmament world and roared crazily. "Those who don't obey my orders are traitors." A woman's cold voice sounded in the void. Her cold, murderous aura was extremely cold. It shrouded the entire world and turned this ruined world into an icy hell. "Nyang Nyang, I'm doing this for everyone, for you. Wouldn't it be better if we could escape from this nightmare as soon as possible and end it as soon as possible?" "Why?" The dragon roared in grief and indignation. It did not think that it had done anything wrong. "As for how to do it, that's my concern. You and the others just need to do as you're told. You can only do as I say. You can't do anything more or less than what I said. It's wrong to do too much or too little." The cold voice did not waver in the slightest. The sky was filled with green light, and the green stick covered with spikes came crashing down once again. "What's more, you shouldn't have such thoughts. This is the path to death." "Heavens, you are wrong." The green cudgel covered in spikes crushed the endless void, piercing through time and space, karma, fate, matter and energy, order and laws. It was like the mandate of heaven, like a judgment. His staff smashed out, and it was unstoppable. What did I do wrong? He was already dead. The sovereign was dead. Without the sovereign, without the origin, the universe is like rootless duckweed, a dream. Once the day of destruction comes, we will all disappear. The dragon roared in anger. "What did I do wrong? The sovereign is dead. Why can't I become the new sovereign? Arrogance is the greatest sin." The cold female voice sounded again. The green cudgel that reached the sky crushed everything. The dragon that was hundreds of millions of miles long could not resist the cudgel at all. With a sweep of the cudgel, it was annihilated instantly. It was completely and utterly dead. "Pass down the order. The heavens have rebelled. From today onwards, the heavens realm will be under my personal control. All the divine generals under the heavens realm will be executed." Then the heavens realm, under the control of the heavens realm, faced a great purge. Countless silver-armored divine generals were all captured and escorted to the broken heavens realm to be executed. They were impaled with spears and placed on the ground. This is the reason why the heavens realm was destroyed. This is the reason why the silver-armored divine generals were executed. Seeing this scene, Liu was speechless for a long time. A firmament great emperor at the second step of the chaos realm had been killed with a single blow of a stick. What kind of terrifying existence was that heavenly emperor? Also, that green cudgel full of spikes. Why do I feel that it is somewhat familiar? Liu suddenly thought of the green wall and spikes in the void outside the Emperor heaven. A guess came to his mind. Could it be the green wall and spikes were part of that green cudgel? This guess caused Liu to suck in a breath of cold air, unable to recover for a long time. The green wall and spikes had been confirmed by the system to be items of the third step chaos. Now, that thing turned out to be a weapon? Liu had a deep understanding of how powerful an item of the third step chaos was. The system was the proof of chaos, an item of the third step chaos. It was omnipotent. The primordial violet vapor was also an item of the third step chaos. It was called the origin of chaos. Liu had only recovered a wisp of primordial violet vapor and had not found the true function of the origin of chaos. However, the primordial violet vapor was definitely extraordinary. The green wall and spikes were even more terrifying. A single strike was enough to destroy a world of the Pearl of Origin. A single strike was enough to kill an autarch at the second step of the primal chaos realm. Who was Heavenly Emperor? Where did she come from? Heavenly Emperor, Heavenly Emperor, Heavenly Emperor Taishian. Where did these people come from? Moreover, the ruler was dead. The heavens and realms lost their source. The day of destruction came and everything disappeared. What secrets were there in this? I can't see any more. With Liu's current ability, he could only trace back to this point at most. He could not see the past any further. There seems to be a force that has covered up the even further past. With my current strength, I can't break through this barrier. Liu knew very well that this must be the power of the third step chaos that covered up all traces of the past. Why cover up the past? Why not let me, or rather, not let others see it? Was hidden in this? Liu furrowed his brows tightly. However, there was one thing that was clear to him. That was why no one had descended to the red cloud. Obviously, the one who thought of the red cloud as a descending target was the heavenly emperor, Since he was dead, there was naturally no chance of descending to the eldritch world. Here comes the question. Since the Pearl of Origin is so important, why didn't anyone come to snatch it from the heavenly emperor, Is it because it was destroyed? Or is it because... Liu's heart suddenly tightened. This Pearl of Origin was the heavenly emperor's spoils of war. But I already have it in my hands. Isn't this snatching food from the tiger's mouth? Will there be another big green stick smashing down on my head? Cold sweat broke out on Liu's forehead. Chapter 1368. What the hell? Liu's heart was beating like a drum. With Liu's current strength, he was at most on par with the Emperor of Sangtian. If the Empress smashed him with her stick again, wouldn't he be finished? He couldn't stay here for long. He couldn't provoke such a terrifying person for the time being. He'd better run away quickly. Wiping his cold sweat, Liu turned around and ran. Hee. Vaguely, Liu seemed to hear a chuckle. This chuckle made Liu's whole body tremble as if he was struck by lightning. This was the voice that was not on the timeline. When Liu was in the world of devouring starry sky and took in a Bug Clan queen, he had heard this voice. Now, this voice was ringing in his ears again. Who is she? That Empress? Is she friend or foe? Liu also knew that at least for the time being, at least just now, this person had no ill intentions. Liu's arrival in the world at Sangtian had already been detected. If she had any ill intentions, that green stick would have smashed him long ago. This kind of mysterious method was the most annoying. If there was anything, just say it directly. Why make it so complicated? Liu felt depressed again. He took a step forward and instantly left the world of Sangtian. Liu returned to the Immortal Mansion. Finally, I have some ability to protect myself. Looking up at the space of the Immortal Mansion in front of him, this vast and boundless world had 9 huge and boundless continents, forming a vast world. From the very beginning, he had no strength to truss a chicken. To the current supreme of the second step of chaos, Liu had built a powerful force bit by bit. So far, except for that unknown Empress, Liu was not afraid of anyone. It's time for my subordinates to increase their strength as well. Liu's subordinates, except for the women of the Immortal Mansion, were in the Immortal Court on South Parting Island. At this moment, due to the unlimited supply of various heavenly materials and earthly treasures, the cultivation of the women of the Immortal Mansion had increased rapidly. All of them had already broken through to the Immortal Emperor realm. However, the generals of the Immortal Court on South Parting Island were basically only at the Immortal King realm. According to the arrangement of the Great Emperor of Heaven, the Immortal Emperors were the generals and the Immortal Kings were just small soldiers. The strength of Liu's subordinates was far inferior. Good, Dark Immortal Emperor and Pan, you have been idle in the warehouse for a long time. I can decompose them to improve the powers of my subordinates. Stepping out of the Immortal Estate, Liu arrived at the Immortal Court of the Undying Mountain on South Parting Island. Generals of the Immortal Court, quickly come and see me. Walking into the main hall on Dragon Son Basha's back, Liu sat high up in the hall and announced to the generals to have an audience. Greetings, Your Majesty. In just a moment, the divine generals of the Immortal Court rushed to the main hall and bowed to Liu. You've all followed this emperor for a long time, and you've all been cautious and conscientious. Nothing has ever gone wrong. You should be rewarded for your contributions. Liu sat upright on the dragon throne, glanced at the people who were kowtowing below, and nodded. It's not easy for you to cultivate, and it's difficult for you to break through. I'll give you an opportunity. While speaking, Liu waved his hand. Beams of light flew out of his hand and fell into the bodies of the generals. In this beam of light, In addition to decomposing the energy of Dark Immortal Emperor and Panyu, it also contained the comprehension of Tao. What was Tao? In this Emperor Heaven, Liu is Tao. As the comprehension of Tao entered their minds, the divine generals instantly entered the state of enlightenment. In this state of enlightenment, they didn't lack the comprehension of Tao. Then, with the energy from decomposing Dark Immortal Emperor and Panyu, it was very easy for them to improve their cultivation. Dark Immortal Emperor's power was nothing. The key was Panyu. In the world of sorcerers, Panyu had devoured countless worlds in the primordial void. Although his cultivation base was average, his accumulation of energy was impressive. All these years, Liu had been using Panyu as an energy battery. Now, he could finally play his rightful role. Apart from the divine generals of the immortal court, Baxia, who carried the palace, the 9 dragon ancestors' sons who pulled Liu's carriage, and Dragon Mother were all in this state of enlightenment. At my level, even those who pull my carriage and carry my palaces must be at the immortal emperor realm. Otherwise, it would be too shameful. Liu sat on a high platform, waiting for the divine generals to break through with a smile on his face. He took out a pile of treasures. Panga banner, central Wutu apricot yellow flag, Taiji diagram, heaven and earth dark yellow exquisite pagoda, diamond chakram, purple gold gourd for immortal slaying swords, green duckweed sword, jade disc of fortune, virtuous golden lotus, tree of 7 wonders, Bodhi tree. After returning from the primordial void, Liu not only turned the primordial void into primordial void and wiped out the saints, he also picked up a lot of treasures. Except for a few survivors, the Buddhists, Taoists, and pre-saints were all dead. Naturally, those treasures couldn't be wasted. Big Boss Li had always been a thrifty man. Even if he couldn't use them, it would be good to equip his subordinates. Boom! Earth-shaking auras surged. The divine generals under Liu's command all broke through to the immortal emperor realm. Finally, they wouldn't be embarrassed when they went out. Your Majesty is very kind. The divine generals were overjoyed and bowed deeply. I still have some treasures. I'll give them to you. Except for the saints' treasures, all the treasures from the primordial void were given to the divine generals. Thank you, Your Majesty. The divine generals of the celestial court were all grinning from ear to ear as their cultivation base increased and Dharma treasures were bestowed. You must protect this world well. You may leave. Yes, Your Majesty. They bowed and left. The rest of the saints' treasures are also primordial void treasures. I'll give them to Tsai and the others. Turning back to the immortal mansion, Liu put the Panga banner, the Taiji diagram, the immortal slaying sword, and other saints' treasures into the immortal mansion storeroom. Tsai, I've stored some treasures in the storeroom. See if there's anything suitable for you. Take them. Tsai was in charge of the immortal mansion's things. Liu didn't bother to give them treasures. He just threw them into the storeroom and let them take them themselves. After all, they weren't being polite. Your Majesty, did you get some good stuff again? Tsai floated over and bowed to Liu. Your Majesty's cultivation is getting more and more unfathomable. Speaking of cultivation, it just so happens that I've had a lot of enlightenment on the Tao of cultivation. If you want to continue to improve your cultivation, you can only take the road of primordial chaos. Liu smiled and nodded. With a wave of his hand, he transferred his enlightenment on the primordial chaos realm into a jade slip, turned it into a scroll, and handed it to Tsai. This is my enlightenment on the road of cultivation. There is no specific cultivation method. Everyone's path can only be walked by themselves. You can take my enlightenment for reference and comprehend your own path. Yes. Tsai put away the jade slip, bowed, and left. Now, what I need to think about is how to step into the 3rd step of primordial chaos. Stepping into the 3rd step of primordial chaos was more difficult than all the previous cultivation combined. For Liu, it was necessary to experiment again and again. Then, the question is, which world should I go to next? Chapter 1369. The 3rd step of chaos, deification of chaos. This step ultimately required the soul to be transformed into nothingness. This was the biggest challenge Liu faced. If one soul was reduced to nothingness and everything ceased to exist, would thoughts, consciousness, memories, and other things that represented oneself still exist? Therefore, the third step of chaos was more than 100 times more difficult than all the difficulties Liu had encountered before. This was related to the fundamental question of who I was and who I was. Without all the memories of the past, without his own consciousness, and without his own thoughts, would Liu still be Liu? If he achieved chaos like this, he would become an inexplicable existence with no thoughts and no consciousness and no emotions and no desires. This was what Liu was worried about. At the end of cultivation, he would lose himself. Therefore, we must not make any mistakes in this breakthrough. This was different from the lack of confidence of the second step of chaos. Turning into chaos, there was still a chance of success. Deification of chaos. If you dared to rush, your soul would be annihilated in minutes. The soul, according to traditional Taoism, is also called the primordial spirit. On the path of the primordial spirit, I have already reached the realm of immortality and eternity. In the world of supreme beings, I turn my Tao heart into Tao fruit. I have already reached the extreme. But Tao fruit was not chaos. From a certain point of view, Tao fruit was not simply the realm of the soul, but the fusion and sublimation of essence, energy, and spirit. It was a status achieved. Liu had already reached the end of the Taoist path of the primordial spirit and could no longer have a breakthrough. Buddhism also has a soul method. The soul relic eventually turned into a golden body. In essence, it is the same thing as the Taoist primordial spirit. I also can't get inspiration from the Buddhist cultivation method. Buddhism was Tao. Taoism and Buddhism intertwined and fused with each other's cultivation concepts. It could only be said that the relationship between the left hand and the right hand. In essence, there was not much difference. Confucianism also had the theory of temperament, and there was even the existence of the heart saint, who purely cultivated the heart. Unfortunately, the doctrine of the heart saint could be described in a simple sentence. If I see it, I know it. It exists. If I don't see it, I don't know it. It doesn't exist. Everything follows the heart. However, it was useless. To Liu, this thing was worthless. What I want to solve is the problem of my own existence, not the knowability or unknowability of external objects. Therefore, the traditional Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism could no longer inspire Liu. System, is there any place suitable for me to comprehend the method of deifying chaos? Can you recommend a few? Liu couldn't figure out where to go, so he asked the system. Searching the database, found a world that meets the user's requirements. First, worlds that believe in gods. The gods of such worlds use the power of faith, also known as the power of faith, of all living beings as their foundation, and their souls were immortal. This method is unique and has a certain reference value. Secondly, in the main god's world that the user once descended to, there is a Professor X in one of the planes called Marvel World. The power of the soul is also worth referencing. 3. Dolual World. In this world, there was a profession called Spirit Master that could awaken spirit beasts. It also has a certain reference value. The system quickly listed out 3 different worlds. Ascending to godhood through faith, Professor X, and Dolual. Liu nodded. These 3 worlds, although the level of power is not too high, but in terms of the soul, there are indeed some special forms of power. Whether it was belief in gods, Professor X's power of the soul, or even the Spirit Master system of Dolual, they all had special powers that were different from the 3 schools of Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism. Let's go to the world of belief in gods first. Liu also had some understanding of the world of belief in gods. In addition to belief in gods, there is also a profession called Spirit Warlock in this kind of D&D law world, which also study the power of the mind. A time travel, and at the same time, he could study the power of belief in gods, and also study the power of spirit warlocks. To Liu, the value was still not small. To advance to the third step of chaos, I'm afraid I still have to go to many worlds to study for reference. Let's take it step by step first. After making up his mind, Liu instructed the system, choose a world of belief in gods. There were many worlds of this kind, and Liu was too lazy to choose one himself, so he let the system choose one randomly. World of belief in gods has been chosen. Target, world of abyss ruler. The system immediately gave him the coordinates of a world and activated plane teleportation. Abyss ruler? The world of the king of Sauron? Liu shrugged his shoulders. Well, it's the same no matter which world it is. I'm just going there to do research. At Liu's current level, his power was extremely tyrannical and had exceeded the limit that most worlds could accommodate. To be more specific, in some worlds, if Liu breathed a little too loudly, it could lead to the destruction of the world. Fortunately, as chaos, as long as I collect my power, I can turn into nothingness. As for low-level worlds, as long as I don't release my power, I can also enter. After collecting his power and wrapping it all in the chaotic nothingness, Liu did not use his own power to travel through time and space, but relied entirely on the system's teleportation power to send him into the world of the Abyss Ruler. The space-time channel opened, and Liu transformed into chaos, formless and silent, like a breeze, and floated into the world of the Abyss Ruler. Boom! As soon as he floated into this world, even if Liu collected his power, even if he did not do anything, even if he did not breathe, just his existence alone shook the laws of the entire world. Lines of law, one after another, collapsed in front of Liu's eyes. Order collapsed, matter collapsed, and an extremely terrifying power instantly swept through the entire multiverse. Time and space trembled, heaven and earth trembled, and the entire world was about to collapse. What the hell? My power is still too strong? Liu's expression changed greatly, and he hurriedly continued to collect his power, desperately compressing it to prevent this world from collapsing and being destroyed. Fortunately, Liu's reaction was faster, and he retracted it in time. The world that was on the verge of collapse finally stabilized. However, the destruction was stillborn. Liu clearly discovered that just now, because of his arrival, it was like a stone falling into the water, and a terrifying power erupted in the chaotic space-time. This power rippled out like ripples, sweeping through the entire world. In the void, the thrones held high by the gods, the brilliant divine kingdoms, and the divine and glorious divine power were like candles in the wind, flickering and about to be extinguished. No way. This matter was actually caused by me? This world of the Abyss Ruler was a world created by a game called Battle of the Gods. In this world, a major event happened that caused all the turmoil. That was, the gods lost their divine power, fell from their thrones, and fell into the mortal world as saints. This matter was actually caused by Liu's arrival, and because he did not completely collect his power, this led to a vicious accident. Chapter 1370. What the F***CK? This time, I don't even dare to move. Liu could indeed enter a world where the level of power was not high. However, after entering, if he was not careful, the world would be destroyed. That would be awkward. Every breath he took would shatter a world. It turned out that being too powerful was not a good thing. In the world of Huangtian Emperor, a breath from the Dark Deity Emperor destroyed countless realms and blew countless deity kings to death. Liu's current strength was immeasurably stronger than the Dark Deity Emperor. Exhaling a breath of air could destroy the world. This was the truth. Fortunately, after reaching the second step of chaos, I don't have a problem even if I don't breathe. Liu added a few seals on himself, restraining his power so that none of it leaked out. Just like that, Liu turned into nothingness and floated in the endless void. I can't move my body. I can only release a soul. Liu shook his head helplessly. Fortunately, I came here to study the method of the soul. I started as an ordinary person and cultivated my mind along the way. It fits my requirements. I can't use too much power. What can I do? I'm also helpless. Looking up at the main plain, Liu found his target in a small port city. Amber City? At this time, the protagonist of the game world, Siscon Sauron, has he arrived? At a glance, Liu found Sauron in the slums near the dock area of Amber City. It was raining heavily. In a dilapidated hut, a thin young man was unconscious on a broken bed. Even in a coma, the young man's pale face still had a painful expression. Beside the bed where the young man was lying, a little girl hugged a thin old dog and sobbed softly. "Brother, you must wake up. Don't leave me. Vivian misses you so much." Well, this is the protagonist. The king of Siscon, Sauron, had obviously transmigrated, but had not completely fused with his soul and had yet to wake up. The Witch of Fear and the king of Siscon. This whole family is a scourge. However, the game system on Sauron is still somewhat useful. For Sauron, this was a game. He had transmigrated into a game world. He was born with a golden finger, which was the game interface. I can use this as a reference. After glancing at Sauron, Liu immediately made a copy of the game interface. After some modifications, it can be used as a cheat for my avatar to enter the real world. He didn't dare to use too much power and could only send a part of his divine soul into the world. He also couldn't bring too much power with him. With Sauron's system as a reference, Liu was much more convenient. At the very least, he didn't have to worry about the power of the avatar being too strong and causing an accident. I took advantage of you, so I gave you some benefits as well. With the data in Soren's game interface as a reference, Liu could accurately grasp the power. That old dog, Heath, who was loyal to its master, died before Sauron could wake up in order to protect Vivian. Liu looked at the old dog in Vivian's arms and shook his head with a smile. "In that case, I'll give you a good dog." A knife and a dog at the beginning. Wasn't this the most suitable configuration? An invisible light flashed and entered the body of the old black and yellow hunting dog in Vivian's arms. An extremely powerful bloodline power was born in the old hunting dog, Heath. In just an instant, this old dog turned from an ordinary dog that was about to die into a transcendent divine beast. At the same time, a faint light swept over the unconscious Sauron. Not only did it heal all of Sauron's injuries in an instant, but it also cured him of the malnutrition caused by poverty and disease. I'm Sauron, who was unconscious on the bed, instantly recovered. He felt refreshed all over, and his body was filled with power. "Brother, you're awake. That's great. That's great." Vivian cheered and hugged Sauron, crying tears of joy. Sauron, have I transmigrated into the game world?" Sauron called out "stats" in his mind and immediately opened the stats interface. Name, Sauron race. Half-elf attributes, strength 12, dexterity 19, +1, constitution 15, intelligence 18, +1, wisdom 15, charm 16 alignment. Lawful evil profession, level 5 commoner / level 1 bandit health points. 212 experience points, 150 unallocated skill points, none attribute points, none status. Weakened, soul resurrection. Profession skills. Sneak 20, Steal 35, Pick Lock 45, Snare 15 legendary skills. Omnipotent Hand Seal, Weakened Soul, Personal abilities. Nimble Left Hand, Eidetic. Memory Permanent Property. Blessing of Providence Effect. Unknown, Blessing of Providence? What's that? As an old player, Sauron knew all the attributes of this world in detail, but he had never heard of Blessing of Providence. Or was it a permanent property? Wasn't it the same as talent? But what the hell was effect unknown? Woof woof. At this time, the old hound beside Vivian raised its head and barked a few times. "This is Heath, that old dog that's about to die." Sauron turned his head and saw the black dog beside the bed, and his eyes widened. Heath no longer looked like an old dog. Its fur was glossy, its muscles were bulging, and its aura was like that of a lion king. This guy, I'm afraid it's not any worse than the Winter Wolf, right? Sauron was a little confused when he saw the dog. How did the old dog that was about to die suddenly become so terrifying? Sauron could clearly see that there was a golden dragon-shaped mark on Heath's head. Was it still a dog? It was either a rare elite monster or a wild boss monster. *T. Even a dog at home was an elite or a boss monster. Could it be that this transmigrated body of mine has a hidden attribute of a dungeon boss? Check Heath's attributes. The dog was now a pet, so Sauron could now check Heath's attributes. Name: Heath race, Mastiff divine beast. Attributes: Strength 20, Dexterity 20, Constitution 20, Intelligence 12, Wisdom 20, Charm 13. Alignment: Lawful neutral model. Rare elite abilities: Dark vision, sharp fangs and claws, tough fur skills. Tracking, bite, charge, pounce, *CK. Sauron was flustered when he saw the attributes. My life is worse than a dog's. As a transmigrator, I'm worse than a dog. How can I endure this? Strength, Constitution, Dexterity, and Wisdom have all reached 20 points. All 4 of his attributes are extraordinary. How can it be so overpowered? If I let this dog out, it could easily wipe out a team of heavy cavalry. Chapter 1371. I think it's time for my avatar to enter the world. Liu chuckled and ignored Sauron's exclamation. Instead, he turned his attention to the noble district of Amber City. I want to enter the world with my avatar, so I can't let myself be wronged. In this dark medieval-era world, the difference between nobles and commoners was unimaginable. Have you ever heard of rights of the first night? Moreover, if one looked at a noble for too long, it would be disrespectful to them, and they would be chopped up. If Liu's avatar entered the world and became a commoner, how much anger would he have to endure? If he did not want to kowtow to a noble and fell indignant, he would kill his way out? Kill his way out? This was not in line with Liu's goal of entering the world. So, if I find a noble identity to enter the world, I can avoid a lot of trouble. After scanning the noble district of Amber City, Liu found a suitable target. Victor Serone Antares. This was the son of Earl Antares, the castellan of Amber City. An arrogant, despotic, ignorant, and incompetent noble child. The only reason I chose this identity is because his appearance fits my taste. Black hair and black eyes. Other than his skin being a little paler, his facial features were slightly similar to the people of China. Even in this barbaric world, Big Bossly tried his best not to be too barbaric. He separated a part of his soul and weakened the power of this soul to a level that met the standards of this world. Then he inserted this part of his soul into this Victor's body. This body is too weak, isn't it? After taking over Victor's body and absorbing his original memories, Liu stood up from the luxurious bed. Feeling the weakness of this body due to excessive alcohol and women, Liu shook his head. Let's take a look at the attributes first. Liu copied a game panel from Sauron, modified it a little, and brought it with him as a cheat. A light screen appeared in his mind, and the attributes of Liu's avatar were completely revealed. Name: Victor Serone Antares. Race: human. Attributes: Strength 10, Agility 11, Constitution 9, Intelligence 9, 25, Wisdom 9, 25, Spirit 9, 25, Charm 11, 18. Faction: Lawful Evil Profession. Level 1 Aristocrat / Level 1 Novice Knight. HP 1, 212 Experience, 0 Skill Points, none Attribute Points, none Class Skills. Swordsmanship 5, Horsemanship 10, Aristocratic Etiquette 15, Aristocratic Knowledge 10. Personal Abilities: Extraordinary Intelligence, Iron Will, Extraordinary Perception. Alright, the original owner of this body is really terrible. Liu shook his head helplessly. On the attribute panel, the things in brackets were naturally brought over by Liu after he took over the body. Other than the things in brackets, the rest were simply unbearable to look at. My current attributes are completely similar to those of a master mage. With Liu's sole possession, the intelligence, spirit, and senses of this Victor had reached the transcendent legendary level. Whether it was a mage, a priest, a druid, or even a psionic warlock and a monk, they all had excellent aptitudes. Unfortunately, I'm here to become a god. I can't be a magic scientist like a mage. Priests and druids have to believe in a god or the force of nature. I definitely won't do it. Psionic warlock and monk, Liu didn't understand at all. As long as he met one, he would be able to research the class models of psionic warlock and monk. Then, I'll just follow my own method. Liu walked to the window, pushed it open, looked up at the sky, and looked at the body hidden in the void. He smiled and shook his head. My path, from the beginning, has been order and law, matter and energy. So, my power also has to start from order. This world doesn't seem to have a god of order yet. Liu's arrival in this world caused the multiverse to erupt, and the gods would fall from their thrones. It was a good time to play the game of becoming a god in this world. The god of order was quite interesting. Order and chaos, light and darkness. They conflicted with each other, but were unified by opposites. According to Liu's plan, his future path would be both the god of order and the god of chaos. He would be the god of light and the god of darkness. Through this method, he would let order and chaos fuse, light and darkness fuse, and see if it could become chaos. If that's the case, Liu slowly opened his arms. May the holy light deceive you. A ray of light bloomed, bright, pure, holy, and glorious. Modesty, honesty, compassion, justice, bravery, sacrifice, honor, spirit. These are the virtues of the holy light. This is the source of order. Through the body, Liu silently announced. With the power of the body, this virtue of the holy light, the source of order, was deeply imprinted in the origin of this world, becoming the law of the order side. Here, Liu created the path of the holy light in this world. After the imprinting of the law of the holy light was completed, the origin of heaven and earth responded. A vast and pure holy light origin instantly fell into Liu's body, and a huge power nourished his body. Ka-ka! The joints all over his body cracked. Under the nourishment of the holy light origin, Liu's avatar body underwent a complete transformation. The muscles and bones all over his body were constantly remodeled, strengthened, and sublimated. The attributes of his body had undergone a huge change. Strength 25, agility 25, constitution 25, intelligence 25, perception 25, spirit 25, charm 25. All his attributes had reached the level of extraordinary legend. The lineup had also become order and kindness. His profession had become a paladin, but he was still only level 1. Well, I'm already starting with legendary attributes. Compared to the miserable Sauron, I can't be compared at all. Liu smiled and shook his head. With his strength level, it would be too much of a bully to compare with Sauron. Let's improve my swordsmanship first. This Victor avatar was originally a noble knight, but his swordsmanship was only level 5. It could be said that he only knew how to pick up a sword and swing it twice. Fortunately, I know all the swordsmanship in Victor's memory, although that Victor didn't even remember these swordsmanship himself. However, Liu still found the full set of Sauron's cross swordsmanship for Victor's memory. Dressed neatly, Liu walked out of the door and headed to the training ground in the backyard of the castle. Young Master Victor. Seeing Liu walk into the training ground, the group of knights who were practicing swordsmanship in the training ground stopped and looked at Liu in shock. Victor, my brother, didn't you never enter the training ground? You actually came to the training ground today? Oh, I understand. You're here to look for Knight Chris, right? She didn't come today. This was a young man with light blonde hair named Camille, the younger brother of Victor. Camille smiled and greeted Liu, but the disdain in his eyes, even if he hid it well, was seen through by Liu. What kind of melodramatic plot of brothers fighting each other? Liu curled his lips and shook his head at Camille. I'm here for training. Training? You? Camille almost laughed out loud. The group of knights on the training ground also shook their heads secretly. Young Master Victor said he was here to pick up girls. We all believed him. You said training? God, how could such a thing happen? Chapter 1372. Am I being looked down upon? Li Yu shrugged his shoulders and ignored the strange gazes of the audience. He walked straight to the weapon rack and picked up a training sword. This was a two-handed heavy sword made of black iron. Although it was a training sword that had never been sharpened, this kind of two-handed heavy sword was not light. Most people would have a hard time lifting it and would not be able to use it normally. However, Li Yu picked up this heavy sword with one hand as easily as picking up a wooden stick. How did Victor's strength become so great? Seeing Li Yu pick up the training sword so easily, the younger brother, Camer, was shocked. His gaze became even more gloomy. Serene's cross swordsmanship is most suitable for a one-handed sword. This kind of two-handed heavy sword is not suitable for me. Li Yu put the two-handed heavy sword back and found another one-handed sword on the weapon rack. Swish, swish. Picking up the sword, Li Yu swung it a few times and stretched his arms and legs. He walked into the training ground and found an empty space to stand with the sword in hand. From the perspective of swordsmanship, I have obtained countless types of close combat swordsmanship from countless worlds. Combining all these experiences and adding them to this Serene's cross swordsmanship will allow my swordsmanship to improve instantly. Countless types of swordsmanship flashed through his mind. After refining and combining them, according to the principles of the Serene's cross swordsmanship, he reorganized them into a peerless swordsmanship. Of course, when he was summarizing this new Serene's cross swordsmanship, Li Yu also made this swordsmanship completely compatible with the power of the holy light. After a complete deduction in his mind, this new swordsmanship had already reached the peak of perfection. Unfortunately, understanding a swordsmanship is not enough. It still needs to be practiced. Comprehension of various martial arts was only one aspect. The more important aspect was to make the martial arts become an instinct of the body. Therefore, he still needed to really practice. Raising his sword, Li Yu followed the basic movements of the Serene's cross swordsmanship and began to practice each move. Swish, sword light flashed as Li Yu swung his crossblade and began to practice his swordsmanship. In the beginning, due to the lack of coordination between his consciousness and his body, his sword moves were crooked and out of place. Seeing Li Yu's swordsmanship, which was like a farmer chopping firewood, the knights on the training ground burst into laughter. Indeed, Victor was still the same Victor. Camel heaved a sigh of relief as a smile appeared on his face. As the second son of Count Antares, Camer was glad that his elder brother was a good-for-nothing. In this way, the powerful Count Antares would definitely not hand over the inheritance to a good-for-nothing. Camille, who was already an intermediate knight, was a very suitable successor. My brother, you should continue to be a piece of trash. I will inherit the Antares family. Ignoring Victor, who had made a fool of himself, Camer raised his sword. Sword light flashed, and his practice became smoother. Wow, how could this be? This level of swordsmanship? How is this possible? While Camille was happily practicing his swordsmanship, he suddenly heard a commotion from the training ground. This made him stunned. What happened? Following the crowd's gaze, Camille looked at Li Yu. Then, he was scared silly. In Li Yu's hand, the crossblade seemed to have come alive. Sword light danced like drifting clouds, but also like moonlight in the forest. The sound of the wind breaking through the air was like the melodious flute in the sunset. The dazzling sword light was like the bright stars in the night sky. It was clearly a killing swordsmanship, but it was like a dancing musical note. Li Yu's swordsmanship was like an elegant and magnificent movement. Elegant, magnificent, beautiful, and magnificent. There is actually such a swordsmanship in the world? How is this possible? Camille's face was filled with shock. He could not believe what he was seeing. Wasn't Victor just a good-for-nothing? Wasn't he just a good-for-nothing? How could he have such tyrannical and elegant swordsmanship? God, what was going on? All right, this was no longer a problem that could be solved by God. Swordsmanship level, Master, Legendary. Seeing that the swordsmanship level kept increasing on the stats interface and finally stopped at the Master level, Li Yu smiled and nodded. Not bad. I finally managed to harmonize my soul and body completely. Starting from the swordsmanship, 5, Liu continued to familiarize himself with his body through this practice, allowing his soul and body to harmonize completely. Naturally, the swordsmanship level increased rapidly. Swordsmanship. 5 foot suddenly increased to 100 and was promoted to swordsmanship expertise. Next, it continued to increase rapidly from swordsmanship expertise 100 to swordsmanship master, and finally swordsmanship master, legendary. It's already a legendary level swordsmanship. Although the paladin level was only level 1, he already had legendary level swordsmanship. This was cheating. For Liu, the swordsmanship level that others might not be able to achieve, even if they trained hard for their entire lives, was just a matter of moments. In fact, this kind of purely physical attack level swordsmanship is simply too easy for me. Even if it was a legendary swordsmanship, it was only the power of a mortal. It was really nothing. With a clang, he sheathed his sword. Liu casually threw the cross sword that he used for practice onto the weapon rack. The swordsmanship was already sufficient. There was no need to continue practicing. Liu turned around and planned to leave. Young Master Victor, your swordsmanship. When Liu turned around and planned to leave, the paladins on the training ground looked at Liu as if they had seen a ghost. Oh, when I woke up, I suddenly had a strange feeling. I was born with swordsmanship. I felt a little strange, so I came to give it a try. Liu spread his hands and chuckled. Actually, I don't know what's going on either. This should be considered a talent. Talent. Camel could already hear the sound of his heart breaking. I've trained hard for more than 10 years, but I can't compare to you when you woke up from a nap. Where's the justice in this? Why is the gap between people so big? Talent? At the window on the upper floor of the castle, a middle-aged man with a head full of blonde hair stood in front of the window, looking down at Liu, who was displaying his invincible might in the training ground. A smile suddenly appeared on his dignified and tough face. Elaine, is this the power you left behind for your child? Is this the divine enlightenment technique that you mentioned back then? How magical! Count Antares's eyes had a touch of gentleness and nostalgia. Elaine, your son is indeed different from ordinary people. This elegant and gorgeous swordsmanship that is like a dance or a movement is exactly the same as yours. The swordsmanship inheritance of the Eastern world is indeed unfathomable. But why is there no chi? Don't the monk and sword saint originate from the Eastern world? Why can't I sense the existence of chi from Victor? Count Antares smiled. You didn't pass on the power of chi to him? Then, the book you left behind, it's time to give it to Victor. Chapter 1373. Victor, come up. When Liu was about to walk out of the training ground, Count Antares waved at Liu from upstairs. Oh, coming. Liu glanced upstairs, nodded with a smile, and walked out of the training ground. Count Antares was peeping, and naturally, he could not hide from Liu's perception. From Victor's memories, Liu knew that the mother of his avatar had an extraordinary background. She seemed to be a 9-sword-stream sword saint from the Eastern world. Liu's swordsmanship had suddenly skyrocketed, so naturally, he needed a reasonable origin. It was very appropriate to push this origin to the mother, who had passed away long ago. Damn it, Victor's swordsmanship is actually so strong? A trace of resentment flashed in Camille's eyes, and he clenched his fists tightly. Victor, the Antares family can only be mine. Throwing away the training sword, Camille turned and walked out of the training ground. Count Antares wants to see me, so I can't give myself away. Liu's sudden extraordinary talent in swordsmanship would definitely attract Count Antares' attention, and Liu had already expected this. After absorbing Victor's memories, Liu had no difficulty dealing with Count Antares. He just needed to be careful and not do anything out of Victor's habits. Walking into the castle's second floor, Liu came to the Count's study. Victor, come here. Come here. Let me take a look at you. As soon as he entered, before he could greet him, Count Antares waved with a smile and called Liu over. Oh, Liu walked over helplessly and stood in front of the Count. It's really different. Your body has become very strong. Count Antares stared at Liu for a while and nodded. Your body is as strong as a bear. There's actually such a big change. So the power of qi is used to strengthen the body? I don't know what's going on either. Liu shrugged and continued to play dumb. I woke up from a nap and unknowingly became like this. This is the power your mother left you, child. A trace of nostalgia flashed in the Count's eyes. He reached out and patted Liu's shoulder. This is the talent your mother left for you. Your mother is a powerful and mysterious sword saint. You must live up to your mother's gift. From now on, you must cultivate strictly and become a great sword saint like your mother. Yes, I got it. Liu nodded in agreement. Since you've already awakened your powers, I can give you the things your mother left behind. Count Antares walked to the wall, pulled open a row of bookshelves, opened a secret cabinet, and took out a long box from the cabinet. The box was more than a meter long. Its four corners were covered with copper, and its surface was covered with a layer of dark red leather. It looked very ancient. This is what your mother left behind. Count Antares reached out and opened the box. Inside the box was a sword and a sheepskin book. This is your mother's sword and a sword saint's training manual. Today, I'll give them all to you. The Count took the sword and book and handed them to Liu with a serious and solemn expression. Sword of Cloud Severing? Liu reached out and took the sword and book. He was speechless when he saw the item information displayed on the game interface. It should be called Cloud Severing or Cloud Adjudicating, right? What kind of translation is this? Liu secretly complained his mind. He reached out and pulled out the sword. This was a purple-quality epic equipment. Its shape was similar to a Tang saber, a single-edged, straight longsword. In this world, it was considered a decent weapon. As for the book, it was a class change item. Discovered Sword Saint Class Change Certificate. Do you wish to become a Sword Saint? No. Liu already had Holy Light deceiving you. Why would he want to become a Sword Saint? Not to mention, why would a cheater want to become a Sword Saint? He could just integrate the skills of a Sword Saint into the Paladin class model. How simple would it be to turn the chi of a Sword Saint's aura severing into Holy Light energy? Using the power of Holy Light to perform aura severing would become a holy sword. You may leave. Study hard. The power your mother left behind is very powerful. The Count looked up at Liu with a serious expression. My child, this world is hiding a huge crisis. I have a premonition that this world is about to undergo a huge change. Perhaps it will be a catastrophe. Child, only with great power can you survive in this world. Yes. Liu bowed and turned to leave the Count's study. Back in the room, Liu found a stool and sat down. He opened the book and carefully read the Heart Sword Style Cultivation Notes. The Heart Sword Style Sword Saint's main attribute is the Spirit attribute. No wonder it's called Heart Sword Style. Will? With a strong and tenacious will, the sword in the hand is endowed with incomparable sharpness and the power to cut through all things. Reading the records in the book, Liu was also somewhat interested in this swordsmanship inheritance. The so-called qi is to communicate with the elemental power between heaven and earth through will and fuse with the body's qi and blood to form a special kind of energy. This kind of energy was somewhat similar to the true essence spirit qi seen in other worlds, but it also had a special characteristic. Qi was the power of will. Elements and qi and blood were just carriers. The true foundation was still the will. Will and faith are the foundation. I firmly believe that this sword of mine can cut through all obstacles. This has a bit of the feeling of sword intent. This concept was worth absorbing. Liu himself was here to study the power of the soul. This kind of will and faith power was naturally worth paying attention to. Giving this faith and will to the holy light, that is, in this instant, Liu developed many skills. For example, repentance, judgment of the holy light, holy seal, halo, judgment, and so on. These paladin skills, after fusing with the power of spiritual will, could be very useful. Of course, this was also research. Studying the use of the power of will and faith was also very valuable to Li Yu's own understanding of the deification of chaos. As for the sword saint's offensive skills and swordsmanship abilities, their value to Li Yu is actually very ordinary. With the Grandmaster-level swordsmanship and the holy light fooling you, the attack power of Li Yu's avatar was already off the charts. There was no need to continue increasing the attack power. As long as will and faith were fused into the holy light, then the 8 great virtues of the holy light would also be faith and will, and the power would be even stronger. Next, I need to arrange a suitable origin for the holy light. Li needed to let the power of the holy light walk onto the stage openly to prepare for his plan to become a god. Without evil to cause trouble, how can Buddha save the world? So, Li raised his eyes and looked out of the window at Amber City. During this period of time, the Church of Fear has already been secretly active, right? A sect that believes in the Dread Lord is an evil sect. As long as there is an opportunity, the paladin will be able to shine. The opportunity is actually here. Chapter 1374. Cameron was in a bad mood. Originally, Cameron was full of confidence and hope for his life. As the second son of the Count, he was outstanding in terms of character, knowledge, and strength. He was a very outstanding noble youth. Moreover, as the second son, he had no right to inherit the title. However, his elder brother turned out to be a good-for-nothing. This was a blessing from the gods. Cameron had always been full of confidence in himself. The heir of the Count was definitely him. It could not be anyone else. However, how is this possible? How could that bastard have such talent? Cameron recalled the scene that happened in the training ground today. Thinking of the swordsmanship that was as beautiful as a dance and as elegant as a movement, he began to doubt his life. God, why are you so unfair? I've worked so hard for more than 10 years and trained so hard. Why can't I compare to that bastard sleeping? Cameron roared and swept the teacups on the table to the ground, smashing them into pieces. Even if these teacups were made of expensive oriental porcelain, Cameron did not care. He did not even have the mood to care. He has this ability after waking up? Bastard. Damn bastard. Why did you give this talent to that good-for-nothing bastard? Why didn't you give it to me? Cameron's eyes were bloodshot. He was like a wild beast that had been forced into a corner, crazy and ruthless. No, I can't just sit here and wait for death. I have to fight back. The Antares family is mine. I can't let that bastard take it away. Cameron clenched his teeth, his face full of malevolence. So what if your swordsmanship is good? You haven't even activated the strength of a knight. A poisoned dagger, a poisoned arrow, a curse, or a spell, you won't be able to defend against it. Sir Levin told me that a wandering sorcerer had come to Amber City. He took in this wandering magus. Victor, I only need some gold coins, and I can let this magus kill you. Thinking of this, Cameron's eyes flashed coldly. He got up and walked out of the room. Young Master Cameron, Sir Levin is here to visit. Just as he stepped out, he bumped into the butler who came to report. Sir Levin? Camille's eyes lit up. What a coincidence. I was just about to look for him. Quickly invite him in. Just as he was about to look for Sir Levin, he did not expect Sir Levin to deliver himself to his doorstep. Cameron felt that this was simply God's will. Camel, I'm coming. A fat man who looked like a meatball walked in with an old man who looked like a housekeeper. Raven, long time no see. Camille smiled and went forward to welcome them. He brought Sir Levin and the old man into the room. Camille, have you noticed any changes in me? As soon as he entered the door, Raven shook his fat arms, as if he was showing off something. But Camel was confused. You look like a fat pig. It's too difficult to see any changes. Power. My power. Sir Levin stretched out his arm, grabbed a table in front of him, and lifted it up with one hand. God, how is this possible? At this moment, Camel began to doubt his life again. Oh God, even this fat pig had the talent of infinite strength. I want to be alone. Camel, please allow me to formally introduce my mentor, the great Bishop Leander. Raven put down the table and gestured to Camel, introducing the old man who walked in with him. Bishop? Camel raised his eyes to look at the old man beside Sir Levin and frowned slightly. In this world where gods flew everywhere, almost every human city had a church. Bishops were not rare. But Camel did not see any familiar symbol on Bishop Leander. This meant that this bishop was not a bishop of any church that he knew of. An unknown church was either a church of a fake god, or a church of demons or devils. No matter which one it was, he could not provoke them. Raven, please leave. Camel wanted to inherit the title of Count Antares. He could not be too involved with these people of unknown origins. Young Master Camel, are you sure you want us to leave? Bishop Leander looked at Camel with a smile. As far as I know, you are in a very awkward situation now. I heard that your brother, young Master Victor, suddenly showed extraordinary talent in swordsmanship. He was greatly appreciated by your father. This has nothing to do with you. Get out. Camel pointed at Leander and roared angrily. Ha! Young Master Camille, why don't you think about it? Your brother, that useless trash, suddenly has such a great talent. This is a gift. Your brother has received a gift from a certain existence. Leander pointed to the sky. A gift can turn a useless trash into a peerless genius. Your brother, as well as Raven, they have all received blessings. Then what about you? You are stronger than them, but because you did not have this gift, you were trampled under their feet in the end. Are you willing? The temptation of the devil was like this. Then what is the price? What is the price of receiving a gift? Camel's expression changed, and he still could not make up his mind. It was said that a devil's contract required a soul. You don't have to worry. My lord does not need your soul, nor does he need your faith. He only needs you to help me transfer the city guards away at a certain time. Don't worry, we will not attack Amber City, nor will we attack any noble. We only need the lives of a few poor people to complete a ritual. Leander stretched out his palm. 5 people, only 5 poor people. Use the lives of 5 lowly, poor people in exchange for your unparalleled, peerless talent, in exchange for your extraordinary power. Do you agree? Camel was obviously tempted. The price to pay was very small, and there were no consequences, but he could obtain unimaginable benefits. Camel felt that this was too worth it. Or 5 poor people. In the smelly ditch of the dock area, more than 10 corpses were fished out every day. If 5 poor people died, not even a bubble would appear. They only needed to transfer the city guard away and not let them disturb the ritual. After the ritual was completed, no one would know, there were no risks, and they would also obtain huge benefits. Young Master Camel, we can pay you first. You can receive the gift of my lord in advance and have extraordinary talent. How about it? Leander's last attack completely destroyed the last trace of hesitation in Camel's heart. I have one more request. Kill Victor. Kill him, and I will agree to your request. As you wish. Leander bowed. We will capture your brother. When you receive the gift, you can use the power of the gift to defeat your brother and trample him under your feet. That is great. Thinking of receiving the gift, trampling Victor under his feet, and personally cutting off his head under his shocked and desperate gaze, Camel suddenly felt a little excited. Without the evil of the devil, how can the greatness of the holy light be brought out? Camel, thank you for your cooperation. You are really a good brother. Liu glanced at Camel's residence and smiled. The time for the birth of the holy light has arrived. Chapter 1375. Amber City's Noble District. In the basement of Raven Manor. At this moment, this basement was no longer a scene of the human world. The vast underground space was filled with blood-red light, and the thick stench of blood was suffocating. In the middle of the basement, there was a blood-red altar. The dark shadows, the thick smell of blood, the scorching flames, and the never-ending cries of agony. Blood, terror, pain, torture. This was a scene from hell. This place, even though Camel had expected this, he still felt fear from the bottom of his soul when he saw this scene. This must be the altar of a demon or a devil. Don't be nervous. Bishop Leander was still smiling, like a wise and kind elder, without the slightest trace of terror. Although my lord's divine kingdom is in the abyss, my lord is an honest demon king. There won't be any problems with our deal. He gestured with his hand, and Leander brought the nervous camel up to the blood-red altar. My lord, your holiness Aldris, you are the embodiment of fear. You are the ruler of all living beings. Your servant prays here. Please bestow grace upon the person before me with power that surpasses that of a mortal. Leander knelt in front of the altar and worshipped it. Boom! In the middle of the blood-red altar, a flame suddenly rose, and endless fear covered the sky. Extreme fear rose in Camel's heart, and he screamed in fright. His body trembled, and his legs gave way, and he fell to the ground. Mortal, are you the one who is praying for my grace? A pair of blood-red vertical eyes appeared in the raging flames. The eyes that contained endless fear seemed to be the source of all the fear in the hearts of all living beings in the multiverse. Yes, yes. Camel, who was trembling in fright, only reacted after being pushed by Leander a few times. He stuttered as he answered, Mortal, I am very generous. You prayed for power. Then, as you wish, I will grant you power. A black light flew out of the blood-red vertical eyes and instantly fell into Camel's body. The pitch-black and evil power burned fiercely like a black flame. It was as if every part of his body was burning fiercely in the flames. Camel screamed and rolled on the ground, wailing in pain and screaming in fear. After an unknown amount of time, the blood-red light on the altar dissipated, and the entire basement returned to its original tranquility. Camel shook his still aching head and got up from the ground. Sensing the enormous power surging within his body, Comer heaved a sigh of relief. You're awake? Bishop Leander smiled and looked at Camille. Then, young Master Camille, what kind of gift did you receive from the Lord? What power did you obtain? Power? Camille took a deep breath. He clenched his fist and slowly raised it up. Then, he punched the ground. Boom! There was a loud rumble on the ground, and crushed stones flew in all directions. The fist smashed down, creating a large hole in the thick rock floor of the basement. Extraordinary power. It's a very powerful talent. Leander smiled and nodded. Anything else? My lord is a generous god. The power he has bestowed upon you should not be limited to this. And this. Camel raised his arm and waved his hand. A dark red light flashed and disappeared. Aura of fear? Very good, very good. Leander's eyes flashed, and he smiled. Aura of fear is a supernatural ability that my lord has bestowed upon you. By activating Aura of fear, you can cause all creatures within 20 meters of you to fall into fear. Fall into fear. Camel's face was filled with joy. As a knight, how could Camel not know the power of this move? In battle, once the aura of fear was activated, the opponent would fall into fear, and the enemy would be a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Extraordinary power and aura of fear. Camel felt that the harvest from this trip was too great. Power does not differentiate between good and evil. Even if this power comes from the devil, as long as I use it in a righteous cause, I will still be righteous. After I inherit the Antares family, I will still be an upright lord and a great knight. Camel thought in his heart, and he felt that he had taken advantage of this. Unfortunately, in this world, some powers were already divided into good and evil. The power of the devil originated from the evil origin of the multiverse, and it was innately evil. A certain Meow King also felt that power did not differentiate between good and evil, and also felt that Frostmourne was a great power that upheld justice. Then, he was miserably cheated. Hellscream knew to ask, what is the price? But Camel seemed to have forgotten this question. Was the power of the devil so easy to obtain? Young Master Camel, we have completed the agreement, so can our ceremony be carried out normally? Leander asked with a smile, lowering his posture. Actually, he was sneering in his heart. Aura of fear was the source of power that my lord bestowed to the Knights of Fear. Camel, You're already my lord's knight. Agreement? Camel smiled and turned to look at Leander. Bishop, you seem to have forgotten another mission. Victor, you haven't caught Victor yet. Of course. Leander bowed. Lord Camel, your wish will come true. Tonight, right here, you will definitely be able to see your brother, Victor. I look forward to it. Camel smiled and nodded. Then, see you tonight, Lord Bishop. With that, Camel turned to leave and walked out of the basement with satisfaction. Victor, my friend, I have something good to share with you. An elf. Although it is a male elf, but with the appearance of an elf, you don't care about gender, right? Liu welcomed a guest at home. It was a friend of Victor's sock puppet, the son of a baron named Dean. A male elf? Don't care about gender? I'll cut the grass. When Liu heard this, he suddenly had goosebumps all over his body. Go, go. Victor, come quickly. Dean grabbed Liu and dragged him outside. All right. Liu could clearly sense the evil aura of a demon from Dean's body. Obviously, this person was a chess piece to lure Liu into a trap. Liu, who was about to beat Dean at his own game, could only pretend to be interested and participate in this gender-neutral gathering. I hope they can take action earlier and not let me see the gender-neutral thing, or else I really can't help but use the holy light to purify this evil. Sitting in the carriage, Liu hung the cloud-slashing sword at his waist and waited for the upcoming change. Chapter 1376. Damn it. Why aren't they attacking yet? Liu followed Dion into Sir Levin's manor and joined the party. When Liu saw a few male elves in female clothes chained up in silver chains being brought to the hall, Liu felt uncomfortable all over. This is too evil. Too evil. Even though nothing had really happened yet, but this was something that was bound to happen. How could a straight man like I watch this kind of thing? Would I vomit? Would I vomit? Suddenly, a shrill scream sounded in the hall. In the center of the hall, a bloody light surged up, and a corpse slowly rose along with the bloody light. It was an incomparably miserable and bloody corpse. The corpse's skin had been peeled off, and its legs formed a base. Its hands were stretched out, and its chest was cut open. Its ribs were exposed, and it looked like a bloody and terrifying totem. The skin that was peeled off from the corpse was tied to the corpse's hands like a flag. As the bloody light surged, the flag fluttered. Evil, horrifying, bloody, cruel. As the corpse rose, the bloody light filled the sky, and an endless aura of fear covered the sky. At the same time, the same scene was happening all over Amber City. What Leander needed was not 5 people, but the entire city. A huge evil magic circle enveloped Amber City, and at every node, there was a skinned corpse standing upright. The bloody light surged, and the horror was monstrous. Streaks of bloody light penetrated the nodes of the corpses, forming a bloody magic circle that enveloped the entire Amber City. Evil overflowed the heavens. Terror overflowed the heavens. Under the cover of the endless spiritual aura of fear, everyone in the city was eroded by the aura of fear. As fear spread, countless people screamed in horror. The Dreadlord used fear as his power. The more fearful the people were, the more powerful the magic circle became. How can this be? What's going on? In the slums, Sauron was shocked. Sauron, who had just killed the villains who tried to attack Vivian while he was unconscious and earned himself the title of Throat Cutter, did not even have the time to celebrate before he discovered a huge and evil magic circle enveloping the entire Amber City. The skinning incident of demon worshippers? How did it become so big? Furthermore, wasn't the destruction of Amber City still a few months away? Why are you here so early? Sauron, who was familiar with the plot, suddenly realized that everything that was happening in front of him had completely exceeded the plot that he knew. Director, this script is wrong. Originally, he had planned to take advantage of this period of time to plunder and increase his strength before leaving this doomed city with Vivian. But now, he was completely caught off guard. If Sola knew that this was all because of certain guys' need to show off, which led to the event being brought forward, Solon would definitely blurt out, "Wheat bastard." "Vivian, stay at home and don't go out." Sauron pulled out his dagger with a cold expression. "Heath, protect Vivian." Solon could no longer sit still after something beyond the plot had happened. He had to understand the reason behind all this. Otherwise, as a transmigrator, if the plot that he was familiar with changed, his identity as a transmigrator would lose all his advantages. "Brother, you have to be careful." Vivian looked at Solon worriedly, but she did not stop him. The siblings had gone through countless hardships to survive. Even though Vivian was only 7 or 8 years old, she already knew how difficult it was to survive. What Vivian should do now was to trust her brother, listen to him, and not give him any trouble. Moreover, Heath was very powerful. The fearsome spiritual energy shrouded the entire Amber City, and countless people screamed in fear. However, Solon's family was not ordinary. Vivian was the Witch of Trepidation, the child of the Dreadlord. The fearsome spiritual energy could only increase her strength. Solon had the game panel and Blessing of Providence, so he could ignore the fearsome spiritual energy. Heath the Black Dog was no longer a dog, but a transcendent divine beast. His family was full of monsters. What the hell is going on? Solon held his dagger and moved stealthily in the shadows toward the direction where the bloodlight was surging. He wanted to find out the truth. Evil. Extreme evil. "My lord, the god of dawn, please grant your believers the power to defeat evil." When the evil magic circle shrouded Amber City, the various shrines in the temple district released endless light at the same time, creating a holy land under the cover of extreme evil. However, the Dreadlord was a demon lord equivalent to a greater divine power, and his strength was not much weaker than the gods. In the shrines of Amber City, other than the god of dawn, who was an intermediate divine power, the god of aristocracy, the god of joy, and the goddess of commerce were all low-level divine powers. Even if the Dreadlord's power was suppressed in the main plane and could not fully descend, he was still able to suppress the power of these shrines. The shrines could only protect themselves, and there was nothing they could do. "This is my city. This is my territory." Wearing heavy armor and holding a great sword, Count Antares raised his sword high and roared like a lion. "Demon, get out of my territory." Count Antares was a high-ranking Grand Knight, with a professional level of level 18. However, without becoming a legend and reaching level 21, a Grand Knight was still immortal and could not resist the power of the demon. "Warriors, evil is invading our home. Your parents, wives, and children are being violated by the demon." The flag of the Circle of Thorns fluttered high. Count Antares raised his long sword and roared, "In the name of Antares, the Circle of Thorns will always protect this land. Warriors, follow me to destroy evil and eliminate the demon's claws. Kill, 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 kill." The horses galloped like thunder. Count Antares led his knights and killed all the way out of the castle. Levin Manor. "Victor, my brother, are you shocked? Are you surprised? Are you afraid? Is fear my power?" Amidst the bloody light, Camille carried a heavy and huge beheading sword and walked towards Liu with a hideous smile. "Do you see? This is power. Blood, slaughter, pain, torture, then fear, tremble, scream. In front of my great power, wail in pain." Camille roared crazily and ferociously. He raised the heavy beheading sword in his hand and pointed it at Liu. Unfortunately, he did not see any fear from Liu. He even saw mockery and pity in Liu's eyes. "Mockery? Pity? Aunt, what right do you have to mock me? Victor, my power is beyond your imagination. Go to hell." The fearsome spirits surged, and endless evil light burst out from the dark and cold beheading sword. Chapter 1377. My lord, you are the embodiment of fear. You are the nightmare of all living beings. A strange and evil voice floated in the air. The evil magic circle that enveloped the entire city trembled and resonated with this prayer. "Death is the greatest fear. My lord, Let the world feel your power. Let the world tremble and wail in fear. Endless evil surged and boiled, covering the sky and the earth. Ka 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 ka. In the cemetery outside the city, countless corpses broke out of the ground. Hordes of undead swarmed into the city like a tide. Slaughter, destruction, fear, wails. The entire city was engulfed in the flames of war. Under the cover of the evil magic circle, even the most common skeleton soldier had strength that surpassed that of an ordinary warrior. Kill. Chop these bone dregs into pieces. Count Antares, who was as fierce as a lion, led all the knights under his command to desperately block the invasion of the undead. However, the undead were endless. Anyone who died, no matter if they were poor or warriors, the moment they fell, they turned into undead and charged forward with swords and swords. God, save us. God, I pray with all my heart. I give everything I have. I beg you to save my home. Countless people prayed in despair, begging the god to appear, begging the god to save this city that was about to be destroyed by evil. However, the evil power of the Fear Demon King completely blocked the descent of the god's power. Even if the god was willing to sacrifice one of his avatars, he would not be able to descend or reach the city. Moreover, the gods who had been swept off their thrones by Li Yu's arrival were now struggling to maintain their crumbling god kingdoms. They were on the verge of collapse. So how could they have the time to care about the lives of these people? No help, no hope. Under the cover of evil, Count Antares, who was still struggling and fighting desperately, was already in despair. My territory, my people, is it going to be destroyed? Is the flag of the Circle of Thorns going to fall? He swung the long sword in his hand, the light of the Circle of Thorns revolving around the long sword. Serene, sword of thorns. In the Elven language, serene meant thorns. Serene's cross swordsmanship, which had been passed down in the Antares family, had a special ability called the Thorny Halo when practiced to the highest level. The Thorny Halo of thorns surrounded Count Antares. The sharp thorns of the thorns were like the teeth of a rapidly spinning saw, shattering everything in front of him. Ring of thorns, never retreat. Count Antares roared into the sky. Be careful. The attendant's scream startled Count Antares. Suddenly, his vision went dark as a huge shadow whizzed over. Boom! A massive force heavily smashed into Count Antares' body, causing blood to wildly spurt out. Count Antares was sent flying dozens of meters away. Boom! 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 It was a flesh and blood puppet the size of a small mountain. This massive flesh and blood puppet seemed to be formed from countless body parts. It was disgusting and terrifying. God, what kind of monster is this? Even the powerful Count was defeated by this monster in one blow. Could this monster still be defeated? The knights who had followed Count Antares all the way, the brave knights of the Circle of Thorns, at this moment, their hearts were filled with fear and despair. My home, my territory, and my child. Count Antares struggled with difficulty, but he had no strength to stand up. His shattered sternum seemed to have pierced through his lungs, making it difficult to breathe. The Count's eyes became blurry. With difficulty and reluctance, he looked at the city that had fallen into destruction and despair. Evil was still wreaking havoc. The undead attacked everywhere, slaughtering every living person in sight. I don't know if Victor and Camille can escape alive. Child, father, I've disappointed you. I couldn't defeat evil. I couldn't protect our territory. The hand that was holding the sword slowly loosened. Count Antares was on the verge of death. No, no. In a daze, Count Antares heard Victor's painful and indignant shout. Run! Quickly! Count Antares struggled to summon his last breath and shouted at Victor. My home is being attacked by demons. My family is being attacked by demons. I've never thirsted for power as much as I do now. To defeat evil, to protect my home, I can give up everything. God in the sky. Kindness and justice are being blasphemed and violated. Innocent lives are being slaughtered. Where's the light and justice? I thirst for power. I thirst for the power to protect justice. Victor's cry of grief and indignation echoed in the sky. Child, justice is only under the sword. Tears flashed in Count Antares's eyes. Victor is still too naive. What kindness is there in this world? What justice is there? Are the gods all kind and righteous? No, child. Kindness and justice are never obtained by praying. They must be watered with blood and fought with swords. Unfortunately, I no longer have the chance to continue teaching you. My child. What did I see? A naive little bug? You're still praying for light? You're still praying for justice? Your God is no longer able to protect you. Fear, despair. Leander's body exploded with bloody light as he floated in the air. A huge and boundless power condensed in his hands. This is the legendary spell Meteor Explosion. A legendary priest. This is a legendary abyssal priest. Damn it. This meteor explosion can completely blow up the entire city into ruins. The temple warriors and priests who were guarding the temple district saw Leander casting the spell in the air, and their faces were filled with despair. The legendary spell Meteor Explosion summoned a meteor from the void. It would fall from the sky and attack the target. The huge impact of the meteor, coupled with the raging flames, would destroy the entire city and turn it into a huge crater. No life will be able to survive. God, save us. At this moment, even the priests of the temple were in despair. Holy light, answer me. Suddenly, Victor's voice broke the silence and broke the despair. Holy light, you are the light, you are justice. A bright light shot up from Victor's body into the sky. It was bright, pure, holy, and glorious. I, Victor Serone Antares, hereby make a holy vow. I vow to uphold the path of the holy light. Modesty, honesty, compassion, justice, bravery, protection, honor, and sacrifice will be my lifelong beliefs. I vow to be kind to the weak. I vow not fear the strong. I vow to uphold justice. I vow to fight against evil. The mighty declaration shook the heavens and the earth, resounding through the clouds. At this moment, the heavens and the earth resonated with the source of order. A bright, pure, holy, and glorious light fell from the sky like the scorching sun and landed on Victor's body. The brilliance condensed by the holy light shone on Victor's head like a crown. The wings condensed by the holy light spread out on Victor's back like a cape. The light was holy, as if a god had descended. Demon, accept the judgment of the holy light. Light, justice, holiness, glory. Holy light like an ocean. Holy light like a tide. Holy light engulfed the heavens and the earth. Holy light illuminated the void. Under the sweep of the holy light, Leander died instantly. The evil spell formation that shrouded the city collapsed instantly. All evil and sins were turned into ashes in the holy light. The holy light shrouded the entire city, making this city that was invaded by demons look like a god's paradise. Holy redemption. The blood and sins were cleansed. All the people who died in this catastrophe were resurrected under the baptism of the holy light. A miracle had descended. May the holy light be with you. Chapter 1378. Resonance of the Origin. Has a new god been born? No, it's not a god. It's a mortal. But why can a mortal resonate with the origin? Holy light? What kind of power is this? In this era of the gods, there's actually a mortal who can resonate with the origin. When Victor made the holy light oath, the origin of order resonated, and the power of holy light descended from the sky, sweeping across the world and illuminating the void. Such an earth-shattering commotion frightened the gods of this world quite a bit. Gods were born because of the origin. Every god comprehended the laws of the multiverse from the origin, ignited their godly fire, condensed their priesthood, integrated the power of faith of all living beings, and formed their divinity. However, this opportunity to resonate with the origin of the multiverse was too rare. The mortal named Victor was actually able to resonate with the origin of the multiverse and even allowed him to obtain a power called holy light. This was simply beyond the god's imagination. Is this because of the great changes in the world? Is this a reshuffling of the cards that will affect the entire multiverse? The gods had a lot of thoughts, and they also thought deeply. Now, the god kingdom was already on the verge of collapse. Even if it was barely maintained, it would be destroyed sooner or later. The gods who resided in the god kingdom would definitely fall into the mortal world. Then, since they would fall into the mortal world sooner or later, why not take the initiative to descend? A mortal could resonate with the origin of the multiverse and obtain the qualifications to become a god. Could it be that we are inferior to a mortal? As long as they could resonate with the origin of the multiverse, not only could they immediately restore their divinity, but they would also have the opportunity to advance further. Thus, the gods were already planning to descend on their own accord. Unfortunately, these gods did not know that the reason Liu could resonate with the origin of the multiverse was entirely because he had cheated. These gods wanted to descend on their own accord to gain enlightenment and resonate with the origin of the multiverse. It was simply a dream. Praise the holy light. Thank the holy light. In Amber City, the bright holy light that enveloped the entire city had yet to disperse. After the demonic disaster, the entire city was in ruins. Broken tiles and broken walls were everywhere. However, the people bathed in the holy light did not have the slightest sadness on their faces. Instead, they were filled with joy. This was a miracle. The holy light descended, destroying the demons and clearing away the evil. The people who were injured in this disaster had completely recovered from their injuries. Even those who had died were resurrected in the holy light. Amber City was no longer the Amber City of the past. It would definitely become the city of holy light and the city of miracles that would shake the entire world. Everyone bathed in the holy light, no matter what they believed in, no matter if they were poor or noble, all of them fell to the ground devoutly, kowtowing to the figure floating in the air. Victor Serone Antares, you're the emissary of the holy light. You are the embodiment of light and justice. You are the God who walks the earth. Praise the holy light. Praise the holy light, emissary Victor. Hundreds of thousands of people in the city kowtowed and praised in unison. This was a world where God had manifested. With the birth of such a miracle, the people naturally believed in the holy light. Is this the power of faith? Floating in the sky, Liu, who was spreading his wings of holy light and acting as a big light bulb, sensed a strange mental power coming from the people who were kneeling down below. Heterogeneous, impure, and easily shaken. Does the God of this world rely on this kind of power to ascend? Liu did not dare to casually absorb this heterogeneous and impure spiritual energy without understanding the nature of the power of faith. It would interfere and pollute his own soul. Liu could easily remove the interference and pollution with the power of his own body and even refine the power of faith into pure spiritual energy. But it was meaningless. Liu did not lack this bit of mental strength. What he needed was to study the nature of the power of faith and see if it could inspire him to deify chaos. I'll say it first. Liu stuffed the power of faith into the cloud-slashing sword hanging on his waist. He planned to do some research and experiment. Most people in Amber City were kowtowing to Victor, but there were some who did not. The priests and warriors of the various shrines in the temple district looked up at Victor, who was floating in the air with complicated expressions. Victor, the eldest son of Count Antares, was ignorant, incompetent, and dissolute. But such a person who could be called scum had become the embodiment of light and justice. God, could it be that the more decadent a person was, the more favored by God? The devout priests and paladins were almost doubting their lives. Victor, you are really surprising. Count Antares looked at his godlike son in the air and felt like he was dreaming. When the city was about to fall, when the flag of the Circle of Thorns was about to fall, when he was about to die, this son of his actually turned the tide and showed such an earth-shattering miracle. It was unbelievable. There was another person who was also scared out of his wits. Did I go to the wrong set? Solon, a transmigrator who had personally experienced the upheaval of Amber City and the miracle of holy light, was completely dumbfounded. What happened to the Demon King's chaos? What happened to the destruction of Amber City? Why did it become the descent of the holy light? And what the hell is this holy light? This is the world of Clash of the Titans. This is not Azeroth. Director, you're a cameo, aren't you? What's more, isn't this scene just like the promotional video for Battle for Azeroth? Wasn't this strong knockoff smell a little too obvious? Victor Serone Antares? In the game's plot, he's just a cameo whose name no one even knows. Even this Amber City is just the background of the game. As soon as the player entered the game, Amber City was destroyed. This situation, what the hell is going on? Solon frowned and had a bad feeling. Could it be that, other than me, someone else has transmigrated? Someone from the same hometown? But what the hell is this holy light? Transmigrating to the game Clash of the Titans and bringing the paladin model of Azeroth. Why didn't I get this treatment? Could it be that transmigrating was also different between normal players and platinum players? Boss, I want to recharge. I want to buy a membership. I want to become a platinum member. Ding! Suddenly, a system notification sounded in Solon's ears. No way. I can really buy a membership? Solon's heart skipped a beat when he heard the notification, and his hands trembled. Chapter 1379. Stimulated by Holy Light. The first attribute of Blessing of You has been activated. Opening the game panel, Soren saw such a prompt. Not a member, but Blessing of You? What is this thing? It was not the member top-up that he imagined, which made him a little disappointed. However, this inexplicable Blessing of You also made Soren somewhat confused. Blessing of You, stimulated by Holy Light. The first attribute of Blessing of You has been activated. Blessing of You has been activated. All attributes increased by 30% for 30 minutes. Damage to demons, devils, undead, and other evil creatures increased. This blessing was very powerful. Whether it was the all attributes increased by 30% or the damage to evil creatures increased, it was very powerful. However, when Soren tried to activate Blessing of You, he found that his whole body was glowing. The light was bright, holy, and glorious like a big light bulb. I'll cut the grass. I'm a rogue. How can I sneak around with such a big light bulb? Are you kidding me? Soren wanted to cry, but had no tears. Such powerful attributes, such a powerful blessing. It was like having a divine weapon in hand. When one's strength was low, the percentage buff was not particularly strong. But when one's strength was tyrannical, a 30% increase in all attributes was already heaven-defying. But this is not in line with my career plan at all. With a big light bulb, I can't sneak around and assassinate. Do I have to walk the path of a combat rogue? If rogues don't assassinate, why do I have to be a rogue? Why don't I become a warrior? At this moment, Soren's heart was in a dilemma. In order to obtain this blessing, he could only take on a frontal combat profession. Sword dancer or sword saint? Soren's own attributes were more agile, so he could only move closer to an agile melee profession. Although there was an experience penalty for taking on a part-time profession, it was very common to change one's career path for a divine weapon. This blessing was not inferior to a divine weapon at all. Young man, if you don't have a powerful divine weapon, you will be very weak in the later stages of the game. Liu smiled as he shook his head. Reality isn't a game. Not every thief can get 2 egg daggers. As a fellow villager, of course I have to help you. After giving Sauron a blessing, Liu was too lazy to care about Sauron's entanglement. He dispersed the holy light wings and returned to the Thorn Castle. He had more important things to deal with. Victor, this is Camille? Count Antares followed Liu to the Levin Manor and went to the basement that had been purified by the holy light. In the basement, Count Antares saw a monster imprisoned by the holy light. Yes, Camel had become a monster. It was 3 meters tall and was covered in pitch-black scales. It had 2 horns on its head and a huge beheading sword in its hand. It had a green face and fangs, and its entire body exuded an extremely evil aura. This monster roared crazily in the holy light cage. The demon tempted him. Liu looked at the monster in the holy light cage with pity. The Dreadlord's power has corrupted him. He has become a Dread Knight. Can you save him? Victor, can you save your brother? Count Antares' eyes were red, and there was a flash of tears in his eyes. Camille was also his son. I'm sorry. Liu sighed and shook his head. His soul has already fallen into the abyss and into the hands of the Dreadlord. I can purify his evil, but I can't save his soul. Dreadlord, Count Antares clenched his fists tightly. His knuckles turned pale and bloodless. Victor, can you save his body? I'm talking about keeping his body intact and alive. After a moment of silence, Count Antares raised his head and looked at Liu with a determined face. I will kill my way into the abyss, kill the Dreadlord, and take back your brother's soul. The power of the holy light can purify his evil, and it can also keep his body alive. But Liu turned to look at Count Antares. He did not say the rest of the sentence. You have to try, right? Count Antares obviously knew that a soul that had fallen into the hands of the Dreadlord might have already been swallowed by the devil. But he had to try. Although I've been blessed by the holy light, my true power is still very weak. Moreover, your current power is unable to wipe out the abyss. The abyss is a place of evil that even the gods cannot break through. The abyss was the place where chaos and evil gathered in the multiverse. The terror of the abyss was beyond anyone's imagination. Even if all the gods worked together, they would not be able to conquer the abyss, let alone a mere level 18 Grand Knight like Count Antares. Victor, what are the requirements to become a holy knight? Count Antares looked at Liu with a determined face. His eyes were calm, as if they were condensed with steel. Modesty, honesty, compassion, justice, bravery, honor, protection, and sacrifice. These are the virtues of the holy light, and also the source of its power. Liu's face was full of holiness. The bright and pure holy light shone above his head. Slowly extending his palm, a bright light rose from Liu's palm. Feel the holy light. With your faith, resonate with the virtues of the holy light. As long as your faith is recognized by the holy light, you can become the holy light's chosen one and become a holy knight. The holy light sprinkled down like moonlight, enveloping Count Antares' body. Faith. My faith has never changed. Count Antares slowly closed his eyes and opened his heart to feel the holy light, letting his faith shine in the holy light. Protection, redemption, punishment. After a moment of silence, Count Antares suddenly opened his eyes. Under the holy light, he declared his faith. Kaboom! A dazzling light rushed out from Count Antares' body like a huge pillar of light. Brilliant light. Holy glory. Protecting this land, this was the traditional faith of the Antares family. Redeeming Camille's soul, this was the Count's own faith. Killing the Dreadlord, punishing the devil, this was also the Count's faith. These three beliefs were all recognized by the holy light. May the holy light be with you. Liu looked at the newly promoted paladin, Count Antares, with a smile on his face, and said a familiar blessing. Is this the power of the holy light? Count Antares extended his arm. Seeing the shining holy light in his hand, a smile appeared on his face. What a powerful and holy power. Camille, my child, I will definitely save you from the devil's hands. Turning his head to look at the Dreadlord Camille, who was imprisoned in the holy light cage, Count Antares raised his arm and aimed at the Dreadlord in the cage. Child, let Father purify the evil in you. Exorcism. The holy light swept out and drowned the Dreadlord. The Count has become a holy knight. The Holy Knight Legion can start building. Then what is it called? Silver Dawn? Silver Hand? Circle of Thorns. I want all the Circle of Thorns knights to become holy knights. Count Antares shouted in the holy light. Chapter 1380. All right, it really is the Ring of Thorns. Liu had to admit that the name Ring of Thorns was very fitting when he saw the Ring of Thorns under Count Antares's feet. The Antares family's Serone's cross swordsmanship could manifest a special ability called the Ring of Thorns when practiced to a high level. Now, the ability of the Ring of Thorns had become an aura for paladins after using the power of holy light. When Count Antares activated the Ring of Thorns, all his companions within 40 yards of him would be buffed by the Ring of Thorns. Damage reflection? An eye for an eye? Liu had to admit that the ability of the Ring of Thorns was pretty good. A week passed. The holy light that shrouded Amber City finally dissipated. However, the enthusiasm of the people did not diminish at all. At this moment, the entire Amber City was in the midst of a post-disaster reconstruction. All the people, regardless of whether they were nobles or poor, were enthusiastically invested in the post-disaster reconstruction. No matter how stingy a person was, they would still be generous with money and effort. The slums were demolished and rebuilt. The dilapidated buildings were all demolished and cleared away. The area was transformed for the poor for free. According to the people, Amber City was a city of miracles and holy light, so it had to look like a city of miracles. Not only was there old city renovation, but everyone in the city was spontaneously investing in the construction of a huge holy light cathedral in Amber City. The power of faith is indeed infinite. Liu sighed when he saw the scene of the people doing voluntary work and the nobles donating. A world that worshiped gods could not be viewed with common sense. I should also seriously study the power of faith. Most of the people in Amber City had become believers of the holy light, and Liu had accumulated a lot of power of faith. As a container that stored the power of faith, the Cloud Slasher had become brilliant and holy. Is it going to become a divine artifact? Liu smiled and reached out his hand. He extracted a strand of power of faith from the Cloud Slasher and released his divine soul to carefully analyze the principles of the power of faith. The power of faith is a kind of spiritual power. It seems to be similar to a wish. After analyzing the essence of the power of faith, Liu discovered that it was a type of wish. After gathering the wishes of countless people, the spirit interfered with reality and turned from illusion to reality, becoming a real existence. To be more specific, it was the public opinion can confuse the truth. If thousands of people thought of him as a god, he would become a god. So, gods are essentially created? Liu nodded. It was no wonder that the churches of the gods in this world would provide a detailed interpretation of the priesthood and authority of the gods and inform all believers. Then, the believers would pray according to this interpretation. Gods comprehend the laws of nature from the origin, using the faith of all living beings to condense the laws into a divine domain. The godhood of a god is formed from believers. Humans had personalities, and gods had divinity. However, godhood was not innate. Instead, it was condensed from origin source laws and faith. Then, how do the gods of this world maintain the independence of their consciousness? After accepting the faith of all living beings and receiving the creation of the power of faith, the gods would definitely continue to converge toward what the believers believed them to be until they were completely identical. During this process, wouldn't the self of the gods constantly disappear and fade away? In the end, they would completely become what the believers believe them to be. Would this god still be their original self? In the eyes of 1,000 people, there are 1,000 Hamlets. The gods in the eyes of hundreds of millions of believers are generally the same, but it is impossible for the details to be completely the same. Then, is it this difference that allows the gods to maintain their self amidst the contradictions? This was just a conjecture. Liu had no way of confirming it. It seems that I still need to capture a few gods for experiments. It was inevitable for gods to fall from their thrones and descend into the mortal world. Gods who roamed the world in the form of saints were only slightly more powerful than legendary masters. Even if he did not use the power of his main body, Victor would definitely grow to the point where he could capture gods for experiments if he continued to increase his power. I have also collected a lot of power of faith now and have done some research on the nature of the power of faith. I could take it out and test it out. He walked to the window and saw that in the military camp in the city, Count Antares was casting holy light so that the members of the Circle of Thorns could comprehend their own faith in the holy light. Is the Count already training holy knights? It's a good opportunity to test the use of this power of faith. He stretched out his hand and drew out a stream of power of faith from the cloud-slashing sword. The mind interferes with reality. The gods absorb the power of faith and turn it into divine power. Then they use divine power to interfere with reality and change it. This is the source of the gods' extraordinary power. Therefore, the power of holy light could also be fused with the power of faith. He released a stream of holy light and fused it with the power of faith. A pure radiance suddenly bloomed. Light, warmth, justice, holiness, beauty, kindness. At this moment, the holy light that had fused with the power of faith was like a flame that had been poured with gasoline, becoming countless times stronger. However, this power was no longer pure. It contained all the goodness and kindness in the hearts of believers. The believers believe that holy light is holy, beautiful, and incomparably powerful. Therefore, after the holy light was fused with the power of faith, the believers' wishes made it incomparably powerful. The power of faith had the function of a catalyst. Allowing one part of the power to exert 10% of the effect was indeed very interesting. It seems that I need to quickly unify the doctrine of holy light. The 8 great virtues of holy light are the doctrine of holy light. This is the law that I have already engraved in the world's origin. Grabbing this mass of divine power that had fused the power of holy light and the power of faith, Liu waved his hand and sent this mass of divine power into the Circle of Thorns night camp. Asterisk boom. Asterisk while Count Antares was teaching everyone about the faith of holy light, there was a loud boom. Holy light shone all over the sky and shot straight into the clouds. Modesty, honesty, compassion, justice, valor, honor, protection, sacrifice. This is the virtue of holy light. Those who follow the path of holy light and uphold the virtue of holy light will be blessed by holy light. May the holy light protect or deceive you. The mighty voice resounded throughout heaven and earth. As the sky shone with holy light, 8 words that represented the virtues of holy light were eternally engraved in the sky above Amber City under the effect of divine power. Light shone, holy and glorious. These 8 words represented the doctrine of the holy light and the laws of the holy light. When these 8 words appeared, the entire Amber City was suddenly enveloped in a permanent divine domain. Praise the holy light. Countless people praised loudly and bowed down. It's a permanent holy domain. From now on, Amber City will be a forbidden land for evil. The power of faith can only be used according to the wishes of the believers. Liu actually wanted to create a neutral territory, but the wishes of the believers made the holy light only kind, so there was no other way. Ah, damn it. This place is making me very uncomfortable. When the holy domain appeared, Sauron and Vivian felt very uncomfortable. It was as if their bodies were being tortured by fire. Sauron was a thief who was good at stealing and assassinating, so he was definitely not kind enough. Vivian was the Witch of Fear, so she was not kind either. It was very uncomfortable to be in the holy domain. All right, Big Bossly forgot about his fellow countrymen again. Chapter 1381. Vivian, let's get out of here. Soren could not stay any longer. He had no energy to complain about this platinum member transmigrator. Damn it, not only did you bring out the holy light, but you even offered it to the entire city. Are you trying to show off? Do you have so much holy light that you can use it as firewood? Soren and Vivian, who were in the holy realm, felt a burning sensation all the time. Soren naturally thought of it as a large-scale, continuous consecration spell that covered the entire city. Fortunately, Soren and Vivian were not extremely evil. Otherwise, they would have been burned to ashes. Okay, big brother. Vivian was sweating profusely. She felt uncomfortably hot. Even if someone were to renovate the slums for free, and even if they could live in a big house in the future, they would not be able to stay in this home. The miracle incident in Amber City had a wide impact. In the past few days, countless caravans from all over the world had arrived in Amber City. At the same time, some caravans had also left Amber City. Sauron contacted a northern merchant group and planned to leave Amber City together with them. "You're leaving?" Count Antares looked at Li Yu in surprise. "Victor, the City of Light, is still being rebuilt, and the Cathedral of Light is not yet complete. You're leaving now?" Count Antares felt a sense of unfamiliarity with his son, Victor. The emissary of holy light, the embodiment of light and justice, was very sacred and great, but it was also very unfamiliar. At the moment when Amber City was about to be destroyed, I prayed to all the great beings in the world for salvation and strength. The holy light responded to me and saved Amber City. Lee looked at Count Antares with a smile on his face. "When I received the holy light's favor, I made a sacred oath. Now, I need to fulfill this oath." "Oath." Count Antares thought of the words, "I swear," and was speechless. Gods were very common in this world. God's chosen was not uncommon either. In Count Antares' eyes, Victor was the blessed of the holy light. To be blessed by the holy light, fulfill the oath, and serve the holy light. That was a must. "Child, although you are God's chosen one, your own strength is still not that great. On the path of spreading the path of the holy light, you must be careful and protect yourself well. I have already lost a son. I don't want to lose another one." Count Antares reached out and patted Li Yu on the shoulder. "Child, you will definitely be the future Archbishop of the Holy Light, the spokesperson of the Holy Light on Earth. I will definitely create a powerful paladin order for you. I look forward to seeing you ascend to the sacred palace and wield the scepter of Holy Light." "Thank you." Li Yu bowed. "May the Holy Light be with you. May the Holy Light protect you." Count Antares nodded in greeting. Changing into an ordinary white priest's robe, with the cloud-slashing sword at his waist, the Holy Light Envoy, the Holy Victor, embarked on the path of spreading the path of the Holy Light. Actually, I really did want to spread the path of the Holy Light. Li Yu wanted to become a god. The first reason for his travels was to spread the teachings of the Holy Light and expand the faith of the Holy Light. The second reason, looking up at the sky, Li Yu's lips curled into a smile. The gods in the sky are about to descend to the mortal world. I can go out and catch a few gods to study. It was inevitable that gods would descend to the mortal world, but no gods would come to the city of Holy Light, Amber City. A land of miracles was the private land of others, and the arrival of other gods was the greatest offense. Li wanted to catch gods as guinea pigs, so naturally, he could only go out of Amber City. After performing the miracle, I purified the evil in Amber City and chopped off a chunk of the Dreadlord's hand that had reached out to the main plane. My Smuff, Victor, also leveled up by killing monsters. Li opened the game panel and saw a large amount of EXP stored in the EXP pool. The attribute panel also had a lot of changes. Name, Victor Serone Antares. Race, human attributes, strength 25, dexterity 25, constitution 25, intelligence 25, wisdom 25, spirit 25, charm 25 alignment. Lawful, good profession. Level 1 noble. Level 1 paladin profession skills. Swordsmanship grandmaster. Horsemanship 10. Noble etiquette 15. Noble knowledge 10 personal abilities. Extraordinary strength. Extraordinary constitution. Extraordinary dexterity. Extraordinary wisdom. Iron will. Extraordinary perception. Power of holy light. Well, it's time for the paladin to level up. He allocated EXP from the EXP pool and put it into the paladin profession level. The EXP was constantly consumed, and the level kept increasing. After a while, Li Yu's paladin Smuff had leveled up to level 15. Although level 15 didn't seem high, it didn't seem to be enough to leave the newbie village. In fact, In this world, level 21 was legendary. Level 15 was already the Great Wizard in the Mage level and the Great Knight in the Knight level. Liyu's level 15 Paladin Smuff was already considered a mid-high level of power. Although I still have a lot of EXP, it won't be difficult to directly level 21 and become a legendary paladin. But I can't be too strong. The power of the legendary level was already enough to threaten the gods who had descended to the mortal world. Therefore, no god would allow a legendary powerhouse to step into their safe zone. Liu wanted to capture a god for research, so he couldn't scare the god away just because he was too strong. I'll use the remaining EXP to level up my horsemanship and other skills. He put a series of EXP into horsemanship, use of weapons, use of armor, and other skills to level up these skills to their current limits. Extraordinary horsemanship, able to control all mountable creatures. Weapon master, proficient in using all weapons that don't exceed the limit of power. Armor master, familiar with the use and maintenance of all armors, able to wear all armor that fits the body type. After leveling up these 3 skills to their current limits, Liu nodded in satisfaction. Not bad, I can go out now. With a wave of his sleeve, he didn't take away a single cloud, only leaving behind a miracle. Liu put on a cloak and led a horse with a bundle on its back. Under Count Antares's reluctant and expectant gaze, he walked out of Thorn Castle. The fate of Amber City's destruction has been changed, and it has become a miracle city. Unless a god or a demon lord personally makes a move, no one can break the divine domain. Besides, even if a god attacks, can I still cheat? Amber City was Liyu's base, so he couldn't afford to lose it. A miracle could descend once, and of course, it could also descend countless times. Liu wasn't worried about the safety of this city of holy light. Now, I can wreak havoc in this world. A scourge had left. Chapter 1382. The wilderness of this world is really dangerous. Stepping out of Amber City, Liu did not take the water route or the boat from the harbor. Instead, he traveled north by land. Amber City was located at the southern tip of the continent, within the borders of the southern dukedom. The closest city to the north of Amber City was Whiterun. Although it was said to be the closest city, it was actually hundreds of miles away. After leaving Amber City's territory, the road was filled with wilderness. Not only was it deserted, but it was also extremely dangerous. Goblins so annoying. Looking at the group of dirty and smelly green-skinned monsters rushing out of the bushes, Liu shook his head helplessly. Originally, he did not even bother to deal with the rat-like creatures like the goblins. He rode his horse and sped along, not even bothering to attack. However, it seemed that Liyu's escape had boosted the goblins' confidence and morale, and they chased after him relentlessly. Scram! Liu let out a furious roar, and an enormous pressure surged out from him. Ow! Ow! After a series of panicked cries, the horrified goblins immediately scattered. Goblins are just like rats. There's no end to killing them. Liu shook his head helplessly. He did not bother to kill the green-skinned rats and continued riding on his horse. The wilderness of this world was very dangerous, and there were all kinds of monsters. Other than the towns where humans lived, the wilderness was also very dangerous. For example, kaboom! A loud noise exploded on the road ahead. A terrifying giant worm with a length of 30 meters and a diameter of 5 meters, with a ferocious jaw and countless sharp claws, rushed out of the ground. Ankegs, be careful. The Ankegs attacked a small caravan. There were 3 carriages and more than a dozen guards. If such a caravan did not have a powerful person leading it, it would be very dangerous to travel in the wilderness. Just like now. The war horse was startled, and a guard riding it was thrown far away. He fell to the ground with a bang, and one of his arms was broken. In fact, he was very lucky. The Ankegs rushed out from the ground and opened their mouths. Their sharp teeth, which resembled rotating chainsaws, emitted a sharp hissing sound as they swallowed the warhorse with a diameter of more than 1 meter. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere. Don't panic. Don't run around. Ankegs could not see. They could only hear, not see. Use your voice to disrupt it. Among the caravan, a young man in his teens held a crossbow and aimed it at the Ankeg. Attack its lower jaw. The lower jaw is its weakness. What a coincidence. Wasn't this guy Sauron? Did he leave Amber City too? When you saw the young man holding a crossbow and telling everyone about the characteristics of the Ankegs, he suddenly remembered that the Sauron siblings were not kind people. Once Amber City's divine domain was activated, they could not stay any longer. Whoosh! A crossbow bolt pierced through the air and pierced deep into the Ankeg's jaw. There was no carapace there, only a layer of soft leather. Roar! After being attacked, the Ankeg roared in pain. Roar! As the Ankegs roared, the leader of the caravan guards, a burly man with bulging muscles, raised his giant axe and let out a roar as well. A blood-red light flashed on the man's body, and his bulging muscles bulged even higher. His body size also doubled. Go to hell, worm! The roaring, burly man was like a raging bull. With heavy footsteps, he charged forward with a rumbling sound. The giant axe flashed with a cold light and landed heavily on the Ankeg's lower jaw. Puff! A huge wound more than a meter long appeared on the Ankeg's jaw. Green blood spurted out like a fountain. The barbarian's fighting style. Sigh. Sauron, who was holding a crossbow, shook his head helplessly. Wait for me to finish. Ankeg's blood is corrosive. The Ankeg was killed by the axe, but the barbarian's face was covered in the Ankeg's blood. Even though it was not a strong acid, it still corroded the barbarian's body. Smoke rose everywhere, and he screamed in pain. May the holy light be with you. At that moment, a holy light descended from the sky. It was pure and bright, holy and warm. Under the cleansing of the holy light, the Ankeg's blood that sprayed on the barbarian's body was purified. The barbarian's injuries also healed quickly. A priest. Everyone turned around and looked in surprise at the figure in white robes with a long sword hanging from his waist, who was riding a horse towards them. Holy light, are you a priest of holy light from Amber City? Thank you for your help. The barbarian who was bathed in holy light bowed to Liu. Don't be in a hurry to greet him. Sauron shouted nervously. Ankegs are social creatures, and there's more than one of them. Kaboom! 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 As soon as Sauron finished speaking, 3 loud explosions sounded from the ground. 3 giant Ankegs rushed out of the ground at almost the same time. The target of their attack was obviously Liu, who was galloping over on his horse. Be careful. Protect the priest. Dodge. The 3 giant Ankhegs opened their mouths wide and pounced on Liu and his horse. Their sharp teeth were like saws, and they looked terrifying. The presence of a priest was extremely beneficial to a team. Healing spells could help the warriors in the wilderness get timely treatment and prevent many casualties. The moment the Ankhegs rushed out, all the guards rushed over and tried their best to save the priest of holy light. Clang! Sauron unsheathed his sword, and a holy light flashed through the air. Puff! 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 The holy light flashed through the Ankhegs like a knife cutting through butter. The tough shells of the Ankhegs were even weaker than paper. With a single slash, the 3 Ankhegs were decapitated, and they fell to the ground with a loud thud, no longer making a sound. Is this too strong? Is he still a priest? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, dumbfounded. I'm a paladin, not a priest. The holy light on the sword faded as Liu sheathed it and nodded at the crowd with a smile. Paladin? Is it a profession similar to paladins? The guards did not know much about paladins. In this world, other than priests, there were only paladins. There was no such thing as paladins. However, paladins were not welcomed. Paladins were powerful, righteous, kind, and brave. In the face of a team wipeout, they would even sacrifice themselves to fight for the survival of the team. But even so, Saint Samurai were not welcomed, because paladins could not tolerate any evil. Theft was evil. Fraud was evil. Obtaining improper benefits was also evil. Forming a team with a paladin meant that one could only be a law-abiding citizen and could not make the slightest mistake. Otherwise, the paladin would cleanse you of evil. Everyone thought that paladin was another name for paladins. Therefore, they were not so welcoming of Li Yu's arrival. Chapter 1383. Paladins are not paladins. Of course, Li Yu knew about the fierce reputation of the paladins. This kind of best and worst teammate was loved and feared by countless adventurers. Modesty, honesty, compassion, justice, valor, honor, protection, sacrifice. This is the virtue of the Holy Light, and also the creed that we paladins adhere to. But Li Yu's hand flashed with a holy light. But this is only the creed of the paladins. We will not impose our own beliefs on others. Phew, that's great. Hearing Li Yu's words, the guards of the caravan heaved a sigh of relief, their faces full of joy. Not imposing one's beliefs on others. This meant that the paladins were not like the paladins who were extremely righteous and paranoid. Having the strengths of the paladins without the weaknesses of the paladins, this was simply the most perfect teammate. Paladins, Soren's eyes flashed, and he secretly sighed in his heart. Is this the treatment of a platinum member transmigrata? Not only are there miracles, but they can also create a new profession in this world. The Paladin Regiment. These undying cockroaches are in a pile. Simply invincible. Soren did not recognize Victor, and did not know that the person in front of him was suspected to be a platinum member transmigrator. Before transmigrating, Soren was at the bottom of the poor and did not have the opportunity to know a great noble like Victor. On the day of a miracle, Li Yu turned into a big light bulb, as dazzling as the sun, and Soren could not see Li Yu's true face clearly. Your Excellency Paladin, thank you for your help. At this time, the door of a carriage in the middle of the caravan opened, and a graceful woman wearing a veil slowly walked out of the door. My name is Gloria, the owner of the Northern Caravan. My respects to you, the one favored by the Holy Light. The woman wearing a veil gave Li Yu a major salute. Fighting against evil, protecting order and justice. This is the mission given to me by the Holy Light. You don't have to thank me, respected Northern Witch. Li Yu smiled and returned the greeting. The owner of the caravan, Gloria, was a Northern Witch with a profession level of at least level 15. This was the reason why this small caravan dared to travel alone through the wilderness without fear of danger. The Northern Witch was one of the advanced professions of wizards. Only females could take up this profession, and it focused on divination spells. Gloria could see that Li Yu was the blessed of the Holy Light, which was the ability of prophecy. The path of the Holy Light is admirable. May I invite you to come along? The Northern Witches were naturally very concerned about the new Holy Light. Other than doing business, the Northland Merchant Group also came to Amber City to learn more about the Church of Holy Light. It's my honor, Li replied with a smile. If he wanted to spread the path of holy light in this world and become a god, he would definitely have to deal with various factions. The Northern Witches wanted to understand the Church of Holy Light, and Li Yu also wanted to understand the Northern Witches. Please come in. Gloria invited Li Yu into the carriage. Your Excellency Holy Light Emissary, are you His Highness Victor? After sitting down in the carriage, Gloria took off her veil and revealed a beautiful face. She had fiery red hair, amber eyes, and a Westerner's facial profile. However, her skin was very delicate, very white, and crystal clear like ivory. The beauty of the witches was indeed worthy of their reputation. No wonder there was a transmigrator who went to a country to be a prince, gathered a large group of witches under his command, and opened a huge harem, which made people extremely jealous. Li Yu secretly complained his heart. He was deeply envious of the prince who shouted, "Let go of that witch. Let me do it. I'm Victor. I'm just an ordinary person who follows the path of holy light. I dare not be your highness." Li Yu replied with a smile. In the eyes of the world, the holy light was a newly promoted god. As the blessed of the holy light, Victor, the holy light emissary, was the Pope of the Church of Holy Light. The honorific Your Highness was inevitable. Unfortunately, there was no such god as the Holy Light now. Only after Li Yu became a god, the real god of Holy Light would appear. You are too modest, Gloria exclaimed in admiration. As for the path of the Holy Light, Gloria had also learned about the virtues of modesty, honesty, compassion, justice, valor, honor, guarding, and sacrifice. As expected, modesty was the creed of the Holy Light. Even Victor, the Pope of the Church of Holy Light, the blessed of the Holy Light, didn't have the slightest bit of extravagance. He was completely like an ordinary adventurer who traveled the world. The path of Holy Light was indeed the powerful force of the Order of Good. The northern witches were more neutral, but the Church of Holy Light, this kind of gentle order of good, was more popular than those radical sections. You didn't read it wrong. The Order of Good didn't mean that there was no offensive power. Eliminate all evil. Purify all evil. As long as there was any evil action, it would be the target of purification. Shouting for justice, swinging a long sword and cutting off a string of heads, there were such sections. For example, the Church of the God of Justice. Li Yu's words of not imposing one's beliefs on others made Gloria, who was in the neutral lineup, have a good impression of the Church of Holy Light. In the Order of Good, there were many sects that imposed their beliefs on others. They believed that everything in the world must abide by order, and that everyone in the world could only have kindness in their hearts. That was terrifying. Who had never had evil thoughts in their hearts. When they saw a beautiful woman, they would become the target of purification. Who could stand it? Your path of holy light, your gentle philosophy, we welcome it very much. Let me reintroduce myself, Gloria Angelette, the guardian of the Tower of Deadwood of the Northern Witches. We look forward to your path of holy light spreading all over the world. Gloria bowed solemnly to Li Yu. Victor Serone Antares. Holy Light, the emissary of holy light, the embodiment of light and justice, the holy light that walks the earth. Your great name resounds like thunder in my ears. Gloria was full of smiles. Enemy attack. Gnolls and ogres. My lord, we need your strength. At this time, the caravan guards outside the carriage shouted in panic. Lord Victor, we're going to fight side by side. Gloria stood up with a smile. It is my duty to fight against evil. Li Yu smiled and nodded. The two of them stepped out of the carriage together and saw thousands of gnolls in the wilderness outside, sweeping over like a tide. In the group of gnolls, there were more than 10 huge ogres. There were too many of them. Adult gnolls were creatures of level 8 to 10, and ogres were as high as level 12. If there were ogre wizards, they would be terrifying level 15 creatures. With such power, destroying an ordinary town would be effortless, let alone such a small caravan. Even with the Northern Witches and the Paladin, the guards still did not have the slightest confidence to fight against such a powerful enemy. Their faces were pale, and their hands were trembling. May the holy light protect you. Holy light shone. Everyone present shone with layers of holy light, and halos burst out from under their feet. Blessing of strength, blessing of wisdom, blessing of the king, blessing of protection, blessing of light, blessing of salvation, blessing of sacrifice, blessing of protection, blessing of freedom, halo of devotion, halo of retribution, halo of focus, halo of purity, halo of thorns, halo of resistance, halo of resistance, halo of resistance, halo of crusader. A set of halos and blessings were thrown out. Gloria, the Northern Witch, was completely stunned. Sauron, the Transmigrator, was already dumbfounded. As for those guards, gnolls were birds? Ogres were birds? I am so strong now that I can even kill a dragon. It is said that some of the halos and blessings have been revised, and only one blessing and halo can be used. Don't take it so seriously. Chapter 1384. The battle had begun. It was not a battle, but a massacre. With the buffs and blessings, the strength of the dozen guards of the caravan had skyrocketed. Their defense was strong, their resistance to magic was strong, and their strength was strong. This group of northern barbarians was like a bulldozer. They roared and waved their giant axes, crushing the attacking gnolls and ogres. Gloria was not only proficient in prophecy spells, but she was also good at evoking spells. Fireballs blasted out like cannonballs. Flames and explosions swept in all directions. Liu threw a judgment at the ogre sorcerer, and there was no suspense in the battle. A moment later, the gnolls, who had suffered heavy casualties, screamed and fled in all directions. Victory! Victory! The northern barbarians raised their battle axes and shouted loudly. Paladins are so strong. Seeing the buffs and buffs stacked together, and the effect was so terrifying, Soren's mouth was wide open and could not close for a long time. Sure enough, it was a cheating profession created by the Platinum member. At this moment, Soren had the urge to subclass as a paladin. Strange. Why would such a large group of gnolls appear here? Gloria frowned as she looked at the gnolls running in all directions. The jack-o'-lanterns also had their own gathering places. They were not creatures that migrated everywhere. Why did these gnolls leave their territory and come here? Evil. I can feel a powerful evil force awakening in the distance. Liu pointed at a mountain range in the distance. It's there. I feel that the evil force is in that direction. Evil force. Gloria looked in the direction Liu pointed. That's Carmel Mountain? What is this evil force? Liches? Devils? Or demons? Carmel Mountain. At this time, Soren's face was full of surprise. He had already figured out the reason. So it's there. No wonder. No wonder. You seem to know something? Gloria turned to look at Soren with a puzzled expression. Liu and Gloria were both people with extraordinary perception. The surprise on Soren's face was completely captured by the two of them. But even people like Gloria and Liu didn't know what evil was in the Carmel Mountains. How could a level 5 thief like Soren know the origin of evil? This is the advantage of being familiar with the plot. Liu laughed inwardly. He naturally knew the reason. Since Soren was a gamer, he must have defeated the boss in the Carmel Mountain Instance Dungeon before. Knowing what was inside, it wasn't strange at all. Solen's heart skipped a beat. He didn't expect the perception of a senior professional to be so terrifying. Just a slight change in expression couldn't escape the perception of the two. Of course, Soren knew the reason. The change in Carmel Mountain Range was due to an ancient red dragon. This evil ancient red dragon was not an ordinary dragon, but a level 35 extraordinary legendary creature. It could be said that this ancient red dragon, except for the lack of divinity, was no less powerful than a god with weak divine power. In the game plot, this ancient red dragon swept across the southern part of the continent in an invincible manner, destroying countless cities and destroying countless countries. It was terrifying and unstoppable. Even in the game, high-level legendary players had formed teams countless times, but the chances of successfully slaying a dragon could be counted on one's fingers. This ancient red dragon, known as the Destroyer, was notorious among the players. It was rated as one of the top 10 most difficult bosses to defeat. As a gamer, Soren naturally knew the information about the Destroyer, but this was a game guide. How could he, a little thief, come into contact with such a secret? At this moment, Soren was in a difficult position. When my father was alive, he once said that there was an ancient red dragon in the Carmel Mountains. The current situation may be related to that ancient red dragon. The rule of deception of a transmigrator was to push something with an unexplainable source to a source that no one could verify. Soren used his elven bloodline to push the source of this information to his father, who had died a long time ago. This was a very good excuse. Your father? Gloria glanced at Soren and nodded. You have elven bloodline. Your father may be a powerful elven ranger. With the deep heritage of the elves, it is not impossible to know this secret. Ancient red dragon? Thank you for the information. Liu smiled at Soren with a meaningful look in his eyes. Of course, he knew that Soren was looking for an excuse. An ancient red dragon is at least a legendary creature. Its strength is terrifying. No wonder these gnolls escaped from their habitat. Gloria sighed. Not to mention the ancient red dragon. These creatures that escaped from their habitat out of fear will cause huge losses to the nearby towns. Yes, Liu nodded and looked into the distance with a determined face. That's Whiterun. These evil creatures escaped from their habitat and will cause huge losses to the vicinity of Whiterun. Evil has appeared, and the people there need the protection of the holy light. He turned and bowed to Gloria. Gloria, I'm sorry, but I can't go with you. I have to save the villages and towns that are about to be invaded by evil creatures. I should be the one apologizing. Gloria looked a little ashamed. I have a mission and must go to Whiterun. I can't join your cause. Please forgive me. You don't have to apologize. Liu took the reins of his warhorse and mounted it. Everyone, this one will take his leave. May the holy light deceive everyone. Greetings, Lord Paladin. Everyone was deeply impressed by Liu's noble sentiments. Please wait a moment. At this time, Soren suddenly called out to Liu. Lord Paladin, may we go with you? Sauron brought along Vivian, a black dog, and a horse. He seemed to be ready to go with Liu to uphold justice. In fact, Soren also had other plans. With his paladin present, a series of blessings and auras, as well as holy light and holy healing, it would be difficult to die if they went with him. Soren had the game interface, so he could kill monsters and level up. If he followed the paladin, his level would soar. Who would let go of this opportunity to gain experience from a high-level player? No, you can't go. Gloria quickly stopped Soren. I admire your sacrifice for the cause of justice. But what about your sister? How old is she? It's too dangerous for you to go with them. Don't worry, Gloria, I'll take care of them. Liu nodded with a smile and said, The holy light will not reject anyone who wants to be close to it. The path of justice requires companions, and you are welcome to join us. Brave young man and beautiful young lady. Hee, beautiful young lady. Soren, I'm a beautiful young lady. Vivian clapped her hands happily, laughing and jumping. Chapter 1385. Then, all right, Gloria knew Liu's identity. With the power of a holy light emissary, it would not be a problem to protect this young man and the little girl. It was just that little girl had exceptional talent as a magus. If she went with a holy light emissary, she would probably become a holy light priest in the future. It would be such a waste. Then, we'll take our leave. Liu nodded to the rest of the party and rode his horse into the vast wilderness with Sauron and Vivian in tow. Battle was the eternal theme of this world. Less than 10 miles away from the road, they were already deep in the wilderness. There were all kinds of terrifying creatures everywhere in the wilderness. A giant saber-toothed tiger more than 10 meters long roared and rushed out of the bushes, pouncing toward Liu. Hammer of Sanctions. The moment the saber-toothed tiger pounced, Liu waved his hand and punched out. A ray of holy light rushed out and turned into a giant hammer condensed by light, smashing heavily on the saber-toothed tiger's head. With a bang, the saber-toothed tiger staggered and fell to the ground, unconscious. Hammer of Sanctions was a control skill, knocking the enemy unconscious with one hit. Wow, what a big tiger! Vivian clapped and cheered. Uncle is so powerful. Uncle. Liu was speechless. Although the avatar Victor was already 20 years old, being called uncle by the little lowly made him feel like a weird uncle. Heath, kill it. Soren was here to gain experience. He knew that the Hammer of Sanctions was not a killing skill, and that the saber-toothed tiger was not dead yet, so he would not let go of the opportunity to kill it. Woof woof! Black Dog Heath rushed to the saber-toothed tiger like an arrow released from a bow, opened its mouth, and bit off the saber-toothed tiger's neck with a crack. Good dog. Liu saw Heath's performance and praised it. In fact, Heath could become a transcendent mythical beast, but was it Liu's doing? A level 12 giant saber-toothed tiger. A lot of experience. His EXP pool had increased by more than 2,000 EXP, which made him even more determined to freeload EXP. After killing the saber-toothed tiger, the group encountered a group of lizard men on their way forward. The appearance of a lizard man was that of a lizard that walked upright. It was over 2 meters tall and was covered in thick scales. It had sharp fangs and claws. It was terrifying. What was even more terrifying was that lizard men were not wild beasts, but intelligent creatures. They could also use tools. Swish, swish, swish. The javelins were like bolts fired from ballista, whistling through the air as they flew towards the crowd. Protection blessing. Holy light shone and turned into a screen of light, protecting everyone under it. The javelins launched by the lizard men fell to the ground one after another as if they had hit an iron plate, unable to hurt the group at all. Halo. Blessing. Soren's body glowed with holy light. He stepped on layers of halos and brandished his curved sword, charging towards the lizard men in front of him. A thief with a bunch of blessings and auras couldn't use stealth to assassinate him. He could only kill him in the open. All right, teaming up with a paladin isn't without its flaws. Soren complained, treating his thief account as a berserker. With a body of halos and blessings, a thief was not inferior to a berserker. Woof woof. Heath the black dog also had layers of halos and blessings on its body. Its combat power was even more terrifying than Soren's. Brother, you can do it. Heath, you can do it. Seeing Soren and Heath killing the lizard men as if they were cutting vegetables, Vivian clapped her hands and shouted, "You can do it." Vivian, do you want to be as powerful as your brother? Liu turned to look at Vivian with a smile. Vivian, you're very talented. Your brother has it tough. You've grown up, you have to help your brother. But I don't have the power. I can't help. Vivian was very sensible. Of course, she knew that her brother had it tough. In this cruel world, she could survive until now because of her brother's blood and life. I can teach you. A ray of light flashed in Liu's hand. Do you see it? This is the holy light. It can heal wounds and destroy enemies. The power of the holy light is very useful to you. In the future, when your brother is injured in battle, you can use the holy light to heal him. You can help your brother. I need my brother's permission. In Vivian's heart, her brother was the most important. She was used to listening to her brother. Your brother is back. I'll tell him. Liu smiled and pointed to the front. At this time, Soren and Heath had already killed the lizard men and returned with the spoils of war. Brother, Uncle Holy Light wants me to learn the power of the holy light from him. Vivian waved at Soren and shouted, "Learn the path of the holy light?" Soren furrowed his brows tightly. Of course, Soren knew what the power of the holy light was. The holy light was not a god. Even in the upcoming time of troubles, even if the gods fell, there would not be a situation where they lost their power like priests. With the power of the holy light, if Vivian could walk the path of a holy light priest or a holy knight, her chances of survival in the future would be much higher. But Soren felt a little bitter. Vivian, you are the Witch of Terror. You are the child of the Dreadlord. Your nature is actually evil. If you use the holy light, don't tell me you purify yourself first. Vivian's talent is very good. She is very suitable to become a holy light priest. Liu emphasized the word priest. Priest? Soren was shocked. Holy light priest. Other than holy and commandment, wasn't there also a shadow priest? It seemed that Vivian could walk the path of a shadow priest as well. Behind the light is darkness. Light and darkness never exist independently. Vivian has the talent of holy and shadow, and can use both holy and shadow priest abilities at the same time. Liu smiled and looked at Soren. I think she is very suitable to walk this path. What do you think? Holy and shadow? Double talents? First a god priest, then a shadow priest. This was simply too powerful. As a player, Soren did not lack understanding of the priests in the Azeroth system. If Vivian had the talent of both holy and shadow priests, how strong would she be? She could heal and attack. In the future, if he worked with Vivian, he would be in the front while Vivian would heal him from behind. From time to time, she would even cast a spirit lash and a mind blast. Then I'll leave it to you. Soren had absolute faith in the Holy Knight's morals. He did not doubt that Liu had any ulterior motives. Actually, this is also an experiment. The power of the Dreadlord is also worth studying. Fear was also an emotion and a part of the mind. Liu would definitely not let go of the opportunity to study the power of fear. Chapter 1386. The power of the holy light comes from faith. After eliminating the lizard men, the group continued on their journey. As they walked, Liu explained the path of the holy light to Vivian. Modesty, honesty, compassion, justice, valor, honor, protection, sacrifice. These are the virtues of the holy light, and also our faith. To gain the favor of the holy light, you have to let your faith conform to the virtues of the holy light. Then strengthen your faith and receive the response of the holy light. Liu turned to look at Vivian, who was riding on the same horse as Soren, and smiled. Vivian, what is your faith? Faith? I don't know. Vivian was still a child. Using a fashionable phrase, her outlook on life, values, and worldview had not been established yet. So how could she have faith? Then what is your biggest wish? Liu knew that Vivian did not have a complete outlook on life, so he guided her based on her wish. Wish? Vivian turned her head and looked at Soren behind her. She grabbed Soren's hand tightly. My biggest wish is to be with my brother forever. Vivian, Big Brother will protect you. Big Brother will never leave you. A sister con met a sister con. This was a match made in heaven. Very good, this is your faith. Liu waved his hand, and a ray of holy light shrouded Vivian's head. Vivian, the holy light is on you. Tell the holy light your wish. Tell the holy light your truest thoughts. Tell the holy light my wish. Vivian slowly closed her eyes and crossed her arms in front of her chest. Her pretty little face was full of determination and seriousness. I want to protect Brother. I don't want Brother to suffer any harm. A tender voice sounded, as if it was a declaration, but also as if it was an oath. Boom! A bright and holy light shone from Vivian's body. It was bright and holy. This is it. Soren looked at his sister, who had turned into a big light bulb in front of him. His mouth was wide open, and he could not close it for a long time. What the hell? The profession of the holy light was so easy to obtain. Just say a few words, and it's over. In fact, it wasn't as simple as just saying that. This was not a simple sentence, but a heartfelt thought. This was the truest thought, the truest belief, and the truest wish in his heart. Once it resonated with the holy light, its beliefs would conform to the path of the holy light, and it would receive a response from the holy light. Protect Big Brother. Don't let Big Brother come to any harm. The belief of protecting and saving was in line with the teachings of the holy light. Vivian obtained the power of a holy priest. However, in the next instant, if anyone dares to hurt my brother, I will definitely give them the harshest punishment. As soon as he finished speaking, the brilliant holy light disappeared in an instant, and endless darkness surged. Ice cold, dead silence, terrifying, eerie. Vivian's entire body was pitch black, like a cold and deathly silent black hole, exuding a boundless, terrifying aura. When this aura spread out, the surroundings were deathly silent. All the creatures in the surrounding wilderness, be they wild beasts or insects, crouched on the ground, not daring to make a sound. Shadow priest. This was clearly the shadow form of a shadow priest. Such a terrifying power made Sauron's heart palpitate. Why was she so terrifying when she had just become a shadow priest? If it was someone with a slightly weaker will, seeing Vivian like this, they would be scared witless and tremble all over. This is the divine power of the Dreadlord. Liu smiled and nodded. With this power, Vivian's shadow priest form is much stronger than her holy priest form. Vivian was the heir of the Dreadlord and had a trace of the Dreadlord's divinity. This was the origin of the Witch of Fear. The so-called heir of the Dreadlord was actually a body that the Dreadlord created in order to enter the main plane from the abyss. There were countless heir of the Dreadlord, like Vivian. These witches and children fought and devoured each other, and finally became the most powerful vessel that allowed the Dreadlord to enter the main world from the abyss. Unfortunately, you've fallen into my hands. If I don't trick you, how can I live up to I's title of scammer question mark? Liu sneered in his heart. Wasn't the Dreadlord about to descend? Then I'll give you the most perfect and most powerful vessel. With Liu's cheat, Vivian would definitely be able to kill the other heir of the Dreadlord and absorb all the divinity of fear, becoming the last and most powerful vessel. Then, when the Dreadlord excitedly tried to descend, Liu would use reality to tell him what it meant to walk into a trap and teach him to be a new person in minutes. The god hasn't descended yet, so it's not easy to catch him for now. It's also worth it to reserve a Dreadlord first. Liu laughed in his heart. Mastermind behind the scenes and scammer, these were Liu's most familiar tricks. Vivian, change into your divine form. Your current spiritual beliefs can't allow you to stay in the shadow form for too long. Vivian was still young, and her heart was very pure. Maintaining the shadow form wouldn't cause too many evil thoughts in her heart. However, as time passed, too many negative emotions would accumulate, and it would greatly affect her. Oh, okay. Vivian took a deep breath, crossed her arms in front of her chest, and whispered, "May the holy light be with me." The shadow form dissipated, and a bright light shone. Vivian's body shone with holy light like an angel. "You look better like this." Soren let out a sigh of relief and smiled as he patted Vivian's head. "Vivian, you're really amazing." These words came from the bottom of his heart. Although they were brother and sister in name, Vivian's talent was several times better than Soren's. Having just become a priest of the holy light, Vivian's shadow form was much stronger than Soren's current combat strength. From the game interface, Soren could see that Vivian's shadow form had reached level 7. Soren, on the other hand, had put his life on the line and even lowered his face to gain EXP, but he had only reached level 6 as a rogue. Comparing oneself to others is infuriating. Lord Paladin, can I also become a profession of the Holy Light? The profession of the Holy Light was really too strong. Not only did it have the reputation of being an undying cockroach, but once the profession was successfully completed, one's strength would skyrocket. This made Soren very envious. Moreover, the blessing of you on his body seemed to have a lot to do with the power of the Paladin. Soren also had the idea of becoming a profession of the Holy Light. "You can try." Liu waved his hand, and a ray of holy light fell on Soren's head. In fact, Liu knew that if he did not cheat for Soren, Soren would not be able to become a profession of the Holy Light. As a player, other than Vivian, Soren naturally treated the people in this world as NPCs. Sacrificing his own benefits for an NPC, which player would do such a thing? As expected, Soren could not resonate with the Holy Light and could not be recognized by the Holy Light. The efficiency of a rogue working together with Vivian was very low. Vivian needed someone to block in front of her, and Soren was a rogue. He was never a profession of the front line, so it was inevitable that he would take a profession of the Holy Light. But what profession should he choose? I have a Sword Saint's training notes here. Do you want to take a look? Liu handed the Heart Sword style training notes given to him by the Count to Soren. Liu did not plan to become a Sword Saint himself, so it was suitable to find another successor. Sword Saint. Soren was a little tempted. Sword Saint was also an agility-based profession, which suited his attributes. Although he was not as tanky as warriors and knights, he was more powerful than them. With Vivian's Holy Word Shield and Blessing of You, it was not difficult to tank the enemy. It was even easy to kill the enemy in one hit. Obtain Sword Saint class certificate. Your attributes meet the requirements. Would you like to become a Sword Saint? Yes, Soren said in his mind and confirmed the class of Sword Saint. Class. Why is it not a profession? I already have a rogue. If I become a Sword Saint, It can only be a profession of the holy light. Soren quickly opened the game panel and was stunned when he saw the profession column. Shadow Sword Saint? What kind of profession is this? Is this the legendary hidden profession? I can also enjoy the benefits of a platinum member. Shadow Sword Saint had the stealth and shadow traversal abilities of a rogue. It also had the explosive attack of a Sword Saint and the Shadow Barrier ability, which provided growth in physical and magic resistance. It could fight, tank, stealth, and assassinate. This was a custom-made Platinum class model. Blessing of You activated the second ability, Shadow Blessing. When in the dark or in the shadows, all attributes increase by 30%. Stealth is also increased by 30%. This is really a Platinum class model. During the day, he could use Blessing of Holy Light to slash at the big light bulb. At night, he could use Blessing of Shadow to both stealth and burst. This is too strong. I have such a day. Even a salted fish can make a comeback. I can become a top player without being a member. Soren was stunned. Young man, this is obviously my compensation to you. If he wanted to use Vivian to trick the Dreadlord, he naturally had to ensure that Vivian grew up safely and without any accidents. Although Vivian was already a cleric god, and a dark cleric, she was still too young and weak. If everyone protected her, there might be accidents. Increasing Sauron's power would allow Sauron to better protect Vivian and turn her into the Dreadlord's strongest vessel. Then, all you had to do was to sit back and wait for the Dreadlord to fall into his trap. It seems that my Sword Saint cultivation notes are very suitable for you. Liu smiled and nodded at Soren. Then, let's continue forward. Golden Creek Town is just ahead. I'm afraid that town has been attacked. Let's hurry over and help them. Okay. With his strength greatly increased, Soren was about to test his skills on a monster. He patted his horse and galloped with Liu. Chapter 1387. Flames. In the dark night sky, the red flames in front of Soren were very eye-catching. Soren raised his eyes and saw the raging flames in front of him. He frowned tightly. After becoming a Shadow Sword Master, Soren already had the ability Night Vision. In the dark night sky, he could clearly see the scene in the distance. It was a town that was burning in flames. Woof, woof, Heath barked furiously. Heath's keen sense of smell allowed him to smell something burning in the flames. It was the smell of burning bodies. I can hear the souls of innocents wailing in pain in the flames. A group of evil creatures destroyed this town. Liu's head shone with holy light as he lamented the state of the universe. It seems that we're too late. The burning town in front of them was Golden Creek Town, which was located at the outskirts of Whiterun. At this moment, the town was completely destroyed, leaving behind only scorched earth. Liu galloped on his horse and arrived at the ruins of Golden Creek Town in a few moments. The town's wooden walls and wooden houses burned fiercely in the flames. The burning town was filled with broken corpses. These human corpses were badly damaged, with only bones and no flesh left. Lizardmen. The lizard men attacked this town. Anyone could come to this conclusion after seeing the corpses on the ground. This was because other than the broken human bones, there were also lizard men corpses piled up in the town. It was obvious that the lizard men attacked and destroyed Golden Creek Town. The lizard men migrated from the swamps near Mount Carmo to avoid the ancient red dragon. If they were migrating, why would they attack a human town? His brows furrowed as he gripped his long and narrow scimitar. Food. To the lizard men, humans are also food. Liu's expression turned cold as he saw the miserable scene in front of him. Even if this was a barbarian land, the humans here were still humans. Liu was enraged when he saw the lizard men treating humans as food. May the holy light save your souls. Stepping into the burning town, Liu pulled out his long sword and stabbed it into the ground in front of him. Holy light rushed up like a raging tide. The holy light illuminated the world, illuminating the pitch-black night sky. The holy light engulfed the entire town like a tide. The burning flames were extinguished by the holy light, and the holy and bright radiance was like moonlight sprinkling over the earth. In this dazzling brilliance, there seemed to be figures emerging from the holy light. Those were the souls of the thousands of people who had died in Golden Creek Town. Angry and unwilling souls, in the name of the holy light, we shall eradicate evil. As if hearing Li Yu's words, the figure that appeared in the light bowed to Li Yu before dissipating into the holy light. This group of lizard men left not long ago. Li Yu sheathed his sword and turned to look at Sauron and the black dog beside him. He'd find them, then destroy them. Woof woof. The black dog rushed out, following the scent left behind by the lizard men, and rushed into the darkness. Follow. Li Yu mounted his horse and raised his sword. He followed Black Dog, who was leading the way, and chased after the group of lizard men. Vivian, we're going to fight. Sauron and Vivian rode on the same horse and followed Li Yu at full speed. After chasing for dozens of miles, Li Yu and the others found their target beside a lake in the wilderness. It was a campsite. Thousands of lizard men had set up camp beside the lake, and squads of sentries stood guard outside the campsite. In the middle of the campsite, a large pot was set up above a bonfire. A group of lizard men surrounded the pot, and they seemed to be eating. As for the food, it was humans. The humans who had died in Golden Creek Town were all being cooked in the pot. Beside the bonfire, there were also a few lizard men with skull ornaments hanging from their bodies and holding wooden staffs. These were the lizard men's voodoo shamans, evil and terrifying spellcasters. How do we attack? Sauron acted as a scout and hid in the shadows. He frowned as he looked at the lizardmen's campsite. There were thousands of lizardmen warriors and dozens of voodoo shamans. Such a force was terrifying, and it was no wonder that they could destroy a town. Now, even with Heath and Vivian, there were only 4 people who could fight, for against thousands, and the enemy had spellcasters. No matter how strong a holy knight was, he couldn't do it, right? Even if the enemy was a pig, they would still be tired of fighting, right? Sauron turned around and left. He jumped out of the shadows and returned to Li Yu's side. Sir Holy Knight, the lizard men are very powerful. After telling Li Yu about the situation, Sauron shook his head. Sir, your actions of upholding justice are admirable, but upholding justice is not the same as suicide. The enemy is too strong. We need to find more companions to defeat them. Companions? Li Yu turned to look at Sauron and smiled. On the path of justice, there is never a lack of companions. He unsheathed the long sword at his waist. Runes condensed from holy light shone on the silver blade. Angry and unwilling souls, the time for revenge has come. Brilliant holy light soared into the sky, illuminating the world. In the holy radiance, the souls of the thousands of dead people in Golden Creek Town were once again manifested in the holy radiance, turning into heroic spirits. The time for justice has come. Fury of vengeance. Holy wings stretched out behind Li Yu, and the holy light illuminated the world. Thousands of heroic spirits, holding weapons condensed from holy light, also revealed a pair of holy wings. Like a military formation, they lined up neatly behind Li Yu. Attack. Eradicate evil. Taking the lead, Li Yu raised his shining long sword and charged toward the lizardmen camp with his heroic spirit army, formed from holy light. Damn! Fury of vengeance can be used like this? Sauron was dumbfounded. Was this a cheat? Wasn't this obviously a cheat? The Holy Knight's winged skill could turn the dead souls into heroic spirits. It could even lead them to seek revenge. A Holy Knight like this was equivalent to an army. Who could afford to offend him? I hope the heroic spirits summoned by this skill can only be used once. Otherwise, it would break the balance. Sauron took a deep breath and raised his scimitar. Vivian, let's go and gain experience. Oh, let's fight. Slapping his horse, Sauron and Vivian followed the heroic spirits and charged into the lizard men camp. Blessing. Aura. One after another, blessings and halos enveloped everyone. Even the heroic spirits, Sauron, and the others were all blessed by the holy light. This is a cheat. Sauron was speechless. He could only lower his head and wave his scimitar to kill the lizard men. Chapter 1388. Enemy Attack. The army of vengeful spirits swept through the lizard men camp like a tide. The lizard men were very strong and courageous. They did not panic at all and immediately grabbed their weapons to attack. Bloodthirst. Berserk. The voodoo shaman shook like a god and raised a wooden staff with a string of skulls hanging on it. A blood-red light burst out and enveloped the lizardmen warriors. The lizardmen warriors who were buffed by bloodthirst and berserk not only grew in size and strength, but also became a group of madmen who only knew how to kill. However, in front of the vengeful spirits, it was meaningless. The vengeful spirits were all souls condensed from holy light and did not have a physical body. They were not physical bodies, but illusory souls. They were immune to physical attacks. The lizardmen warriors' attacks could not cause any damage to the vengeful spirits. On the contrary, the voodoo shaman's holy light swords would cause huge damage to the lizardmen warriors with every slash. It was a one-sided massacre. Soul curse. The voodoo shaman's attacks could cause damage. Every time a voodoo curse was cast, it would cause the vengeful spirits within the range of the spell to turn pitch black, as if they had been splashed with ink. Holy flames purify evil. The holy flames surged and swept out like a raging fire. The vengeful spirits purified the curse on their bodies and became even stronger. As for the lizard men who were swept by the holy flames, whether they were ordinary warriors or voodoo shamans, they were all turned into ashes. Is this a sacrifice? The range is so large. The power is so strong. Seeing the overwhelming holy flames, Sauron was speechless. Paladins were so strong. Wasn't this too terrifying? If such a paladin had a knight order, it would not be a problem to kill a god. This kind of class was simply cheating. This was too unreasonable. This person should be very strong. Not all paladins should be this strong. Soren looked at Liu, who was leading the vengeful spirits, and thought to himself, this person, who is he? Liu did not say his name, and Soren did not ask. At this time, Solon suddenly became very curious about Liu's identity. Such a powerful holy knight was definitely not an ordinary holy knight. Could it be Platinum Member Transmigrator? Such a term suddenly popped into Soren's mind. Could this guy be that victor? The war, or rather, the massacre, was finally over. The avenging, heroic spirit army killed every lizard man they could see. The holy flames turned everything into ashes. Evil has been destroyed, and justice has been served. Vengeful spirit, rest in peace in the holy light. Holy light flashed, and the vengeful spirit bowed to Liu before turning into countless light spots like fireflies and dissipating between heaven and earth. They're dead. Vivian's round eyes widened as she looked at the specks of light drifting through the air. They're already dead. Liu sighed and shook his head. I only used the holy light to give them the power to take revenge. After destroying the enemy, their final obsession dissipated. Without resentment, the soul can rest in peace. Your Excellency, Holy Knight, your power is beyond my imagination. Solon walked in front of Liu and looked up at Liu. Your Excellency, you're not an ordinary Holy Knight. May I ask, who are you? Who am I? Liu smiled and shook his head. I'm just an ordinary person. I'm a blessed of the Holy Light. My name is Victor. Victor? Victor Serone Antares? It's really you. Solon's expression was extremely complicated. This Victor was the so-called Holy Light Emissary, the embodiment of light and justice, the Holy Knight who walks the earth. More importantly, this guy was suspected to be a Platinum Member Transmigrator, cheating all the way and acting cool all the way. Who's the main character in this world? If you're so fierce, why don't you go to heaven? How can I continue playing after you've finished acting cool? Which district are you from? Alliance or Horde? What's your level as a Holy Knight? With a guess in mind, he naturally wanted to verify it. Solon stared closely at Liu and used the language of the other world to ask for an answer. The cadence of the voice, the flat and undulating syllables, seemed to have an inexplicable melody. What? What did you say? What language is this? Liyu's face was full of confusion, as if he didn't understand what Solon was saying. His expression was very real, and there was no disguise at all. In fact, Liu naturally knew what Solon was planning. Azeroth's skill appeared here, and if a transmigrator saw it, he would naturally think that another transmigrator had arrived. However, Liu didn't want Solon to know his origin. Transmigrators all had a certain mentality. That was the transmigrator uniqueness. Two transmigrators appeared in a world. When the two met, their first thought was definitely not to help each other, but to kill the other and monopolize the world. Liu didn't want to have any unnecessary conflicts with the main character because of this. Although killing Solon was just a matter of flicking his finger, it wasn't in Liu's interest at all. Vivian was valuable, and Solon was also very valuable. Researching deification of chaos, researching the power of gods, Solon, the Lord of Death who later killed countless gods, was also a very good research subject. You're not a transmigrator? How can you not be a transmigrator? Solon didn't see any suspicious expression on Liyu's face. He completely didn't understand. This made Solon very surprised. Your Excellency Victor, how did you become a holy light messenger? I'm very curious about the power of the holy light. It seems that it has never appeared in this world. Since Victor wasn't a transmigrator, Solon felt that something from Azeroth must have transmigrated here. Otherwise, this world wouldn't have the holy light. As you can see, the holy light has blessed me. Liu smiled and explained, when Amber City was about to be destroyed, my brother was tempted by demons and became a dread paladin. My father was severely injured in the battle against evil and was on the verge of death. I felt powerless and prayed to all the gods in this world to save my home and save my family. However, no god responded to my prayers. When I was in despair, I suddenly sensed a light. It was the holy light, and it responded to me. You know the rest. That's it. Solon was dumbfounded. You just prayed, and the holy light blessed you? You're the son of the holy light? You called for him, and he came? If there's anything special, it should be this. Liu pulled out Cloud Cutter, and the holy light shone on the sword. This is the sword my mother left behind. It's called Cloud Cutter. However, it seems to have another name. Ashbringer? Yes, that's the name. Ashbringer? Solon's eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. Are you kidding me? Ashbringer is a two-handed heavy sword the size of a door. Your one-handed sword is called Ashbringer. This sword size is less than 1/3 of Ashbringer's. However, Ashbringer, as a divine weapon, seemed to have the ability to transform in the later stages. If Ashbringer transmigrated to this world, it was not impossible for it to transform into a one-handed sword. Solon was actually somewhat convinced by Liyu's words. Chapter 1389. Soren accepted the story of the Ashbringer's transmigration. When the Holy Light artifact transmigrated to this world, the law of Holy Light it carried with it intersected with the origin of this world, giving birth to the power of Holy Light. It seemed that this made sense. Li the Great's ability to fool people had been tested and tested. Back then, when Zhang Xian was still weak, he had fooled countless people. He had been acting tough all this while, and he had never been beaten to death. A transmigrator like Soren could even accept something as inconceivable as transmigration. Given a reason, he would be able to come up with a reasonable explanation. What a lucky guy. If Soren could transmigrate himself, then it was not hard to understand why another Ashbringer could do the same. But shouldn't such a Goldfinger belong to a transmigrator? Was it because he did not buy a membership? If he did, then the Paladin model would be his, right? Let's go. Golden Creek Town has been destroyed. There must be other towns being attacked by evil creatures. Let's go help them. Liu turned his horse around and galloped toward Whitetron. Saving people was not his goal. Spreading the path of holy light and having more people believe in it would be very helpful for Liu to become a god in the future. Right now, The path of holy light had just begun, so it was time to spread the faith. The guy who was nailed to the cross had 12 disciples. As a holy light envoy, I can't roam the world alone. I need to recruit some disciples. Villages and towns that were attacked by evil creatures would definitely find some promising people after experiencing hardships and life-and-death situations. Hiya! The horse galloped through the wilderness. Liu brought Soren and his sister all the way to Whitron. Whitron was a large city with a resident population of more than 500,000. It was even larger than Amber City. Within hundreds of miles around Whitron, there were countless towns and villages. Normally, the area around Whitron was very safe, and no evil creatures dared to invade. This was because the mayor of Whitron, Stormlord Landis, was a legendary female warrior with barbarian and Amazon bloodlines. Landis's storm javelin had once killed a dragon, but now the situation was completely different. In the Carmel mountain range, the ancient red dragon that was sleeping in the underground magma had awakened, scaring all kinds of evil creatures around the Carmel mountain range out of their habitats. The evil creatures around the Carmen Mountains were very powerful. There were even legendary ogre lords, legendary lizard man voodoo shamans, and legendary gnoll assassins. The evil creatures that had arrived near Whitron were only a small group of scouts. Once the main force arrived, Whitron would definitely face a calamity. There's a village up ahead. After leaving Golden Creek Town, Liu sped through the wilderness for more than 2 hours before finally seeing a village. Unlike towns like Golden Creek Town, this village was not too far away from Whitron and had yet to be attacked by evil creatures. However, from the looks of it, the evil creatures would spread here in a day or two. Let's settle down in this village first. Eat something and rest. After exterminating the Lizardman tribe in Golden Creek Town, they had not rested or eaten anything yet. Liu and Sauron were still able to endure, but the little girl Vivian had already started to doze off. Halt! When Liu and the others arrived at the village's entrance, a big man with a beard and a heavy hammer in his hand shouted at Liu from the village's wooden fort. Beside the big man were 4 or 5 men who seemed to be hunters. They drew their bows and looked at Liu and the others with vigilance. In this world, other worldlings were not the only evil creatures. In fact, the evil among humans was even more frightening. It was normal for every village in the wilderness to be vigilant against outsiders. In the name of the holy light, we mean no harm. Holy radiance shone above Liu's head. It was brilliant and holy. The holy light dispelled the hostility of the village. With such holy power, they were definitely not evil. We're passing by Whiterun City and need a rest. Please make it easy. Liu explained the purpose of his visit to the man on the wall. Welcome, Lord Priest. In the big man's eyes, Liu is a priest and a priest of good God. The arrival of such a person was naturally very welcome. In the wilderness villages, people often suffered from all kinds of injuries. If a priest came and performed divine healing, many of the sick and injured people in the village could be treated. The gate of the village opened, and a big man with a giant hammer welcomed them. Lord Priest, I am the village chief of Lock Village. My name is Anson Lock. Lord Priest, please come in. The burly man led Liu's group to a wooden house in the village. Lord Priest, this is my house. There are still a few empty rooms in my house. If you don't mind, please stay here for the time being. Village head and son walked into the room and led Liu and the others to sit down in the room. Reverend, the conditions are simple and crude, so we don't have anything good to offer you. A few pieces of bread, a plate of roasted meat, and some fruits. This was Anson's hospitality. Thank you for your hospitality. May the holy light bless you. After thanking him, Liu waved his hand and released a ray of holy light, which landed on village chief Anson. Anson's body trembled as the holy light sprinkled on him. He felt as if his whole body was bathed in warm spring water, full of vitality. All the injuries he had suffered over the years were healed under the holy light. Holy light? Is this a miracle in Holy Light City? Are you a priest of the holy light? The news of the miracle in Amber City had spread to the vicinity of Whiterun City. The people of Lock Village had also heard of this divine power called Holy Light. Praise the Holy Light. Thank you for your gift. The village chief quickly bowed and thanked him. Lord Priest, please rest. I'll go down first. Sorry to disturb you. Lee nodded and began to eat and rest. A priest of the Holy Light is here. This is great. Walking out of the house, Anson went to the entrance of the village and climbed up the wooden wall. Looking up at the wilderness in the distance, he said, "The beasts are not far from the village. With this priest here, we should be able to defend the village." Turning his head to look at the hunters beside him, Anson said with a serious face, "Brothers, the beasts are not far from our village. Everyone must be vigilant at all times and keep an eye on them. Don't be careless." "Anson, can we stop them? There are hundreds of gnolls." A middle-aged hunter with brown hair walked to Anson and whispered, "Anson, we need help. It's too late. Bath, it's too late to ask for help. They'll be here by tonight at the latest." Anson reached out and patted Bath's shoulder. "Don't worry, old man. It's not like we don't have a chance. Do you know who that person is? He's a priest of the Holy Light. Yes, it's the Holy Light that showed the miracle in Amber City. He's very powerful. Just now, he healed all my injuries." "Healed your injuries? Advanced recovery magic? This priest is so strong?" Bath's face was full of shock, and a hint of joy appeared in his eyes. "That's great. With such a powerful priest, we can definitely defend the village." Chapter 1390. Night fell. At this moment, torches were lit on the wooden stronghold in Lock Village. Anson looked at the dark wilderness with a gloomy face and gripped his sledgehammer tightly. "They're here. I can already smell that disgusting stench." Bust the hunter sniffed and took off the longbow on his back. "Lizardmen. These are the damn lizardmen." "Ring the bell." Anson roared. "Ring the bell. All adult men in the village have to pick up their weapons and fight." Clang, clang, clang. The urgent alarm bell kept ringing. "Quick, quick, quick. Where's my axe? The enemy is here. The enemy is here." The village was in an uproar. Men rushed out of their houses with all kinds of weapons and even farming tools. The women and children were trembling in fear. Are the lizard men going to attack this village? Liu heard the bell and turned to look at Solon. "Another battle is coming. Are you ready? I'm about to test my sword on them." Solon pressed the scimitar at his waist with a cold expression. "Sir, Sir Priest." Village Chief Anson rushed in. "Reverend Priest, the lizard men are attacking. Please save us, save our village. Protecting the weak and fighting against evil is the duty given to us by the Holy Light." Liu stood up and nodded to Anson. "Let's go. The Holy Light will not tolerate innocent lives being violated." "Thank you, sir." Anson was overjoyed and hurried to the entrance of the village with Liu. At this moment, the wooden walls of the village were full of people. All the adult men in the village had come, holding all kinds of weapons and guarding the wooden walls. However, these people were only farmers, not warriors. The upcoming battle made these people tremble nervously. Behind them was their home and their family. They could not retreat and could only fight to the death. "Sir Priest, we will win, right?" When Liu walked to the entrance of the village and was about to step onto the wooden wall, a golden-haired youth with a long sword in his hand looked at Liu nervously and expectantly. This young man was only 12 or 13 years old. His young and tender face was somewhat pale, as if he was nervous. The hand holding the sword was faintly trembling. "Of course." Liu nodded affirmatively. "Warriors who fight for their homeland will receive the protection of the Holy Light. We will definitely win. Yes, Sir Priest, we will definitely win." It was as if Liu's words had boosted the youth's confidence. He straightened his chest. "Are you afraid?" "I'm not afraid, but you're afraid?" Vivian followed behind Liu and shook her head with a smile. "You're such a coward." "I'm not scared." The youth exploded. "I'm Anson Locke's son. I, Born Locke, will never be afraid. Prove your courage to the enemy, Born Locke." Soren patted the boy's shoulder and walked up the wooden wall. "Roar, roar." Roar. In the dark wilderness, a series of angry roars could be heard. Heavy footsteps could be heard. A team of 500 lizard men roared as they rushed towards the village. They were getting closer. They were getting closer. Then, torches were lit on the wooden wall, and the people could clearly see the attacking monsters. They were humanoid lizards that were 2 meters tall. They had huge mouths with sharp teeth and dagger-like claws. Pairs of cold vertical eyes flickered with a cruel and ruthless light in the firelight. Not everyone had the courage to fight. Not everyone had the courage to fight such a ferocious enemy. When this group of ferocious lizard men rushed towards them, the farmers on the wooden wall were terrified. Some of them even screamed in fear. Warriors who fight for their homeland, the holy light grants you courage. Liu stood at the entrance of the village and waved his hand. Holy light sprinkled down, bathing everyone on the wall in the holy light. The power of the holy light dispelled their fear and boosted their fighting spirit. Thank you for your help, Lord Priest. Seeing that Liu's holy light had stabilized the fighting spirit of the farmers, Village Chief Anson heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly thanked Liu. Priest? I didn't expect there to be a priest in this small village. In a lizard man team, a lizard man voodoo shaman raised his cold vertical eyes and looked coldly at Liu, who was standing on the wooden wall. This is an unexpected gain. I will use your head to refine a voodoo magic tool. Kill. Flatten this village. The voodoo shaman raised a wooden staff with a string of skulls hanging on it and heavily slammed it on the ground. The skulls hanging on the wooden staff exploded with streaks of bloody light. Bloodthirst. Berserk. A bloody light enveloped the lizardmen warriors. The lizardmen's strength increased dramatically, and they roared as they charged towards the village. The enemy is here. Prepare for battle. Village Chief Anson shouted and raised his heavy hammer. Release the arrows. Release the arrows. The hunters on the wooden wall all drew their longbows and shot arrows at the lizardmen. One arrow after another pierced through the air and shot down. However, the lizardmen in the bloodthirsty berserk state did not have any thoughts of dodging. They just charged forward while enduring the arrows. Ding, ding, ding. The arrows hit the lizardmen's bodies, but they were blocked by the thick scales and were not damaged at all. Roar. The lizardmen that were charging at them leaped up, their sharp claws digging deep into the wooden wall as they climbed up. Kill. Village Head and Son let out a wild roar as he swung his huge hammer and smashed down heavily. A lizard man was smashed down by the hammer. The other farmers also roared and raised all kinds of weapons and farming tools, desperately attacking the lizard men that were climbing the wall. Unfortunately, the farmers were only ordinary people. These lizard men warriors, as long as they reached adulthood, would have a creature level of around rank 5. They were much stronger than the farmers. Although the farmers' attacks had knocked down some lizard men that were climbing the wall, there were still more lizard men that had climbed up. At the beginning of the battle, the weak farmers were no match for the lizard men warriors. They were all injured. This was the result of the lizard men not completely climbing up the wooden wall and only attacking from the wall. Otherwise, these farmers would have been killed in an instant. Sir Priest, Anson anxiously shouted at Liu. He knew very well that if he did not rely on Liu, the villagers would not be able to stop the lizardmen's attack. The brave warriors who fight for their homeland will be protected by the holy light. Flash of the holy light. A ray of light shone and enveloped everyone on the wooden wall. The holy light shone on their bodies, and the injuries on the injured farmers were instantly healed under the holy light. No matter how injured they were, as long as they did not die in an instant, they would all recover under the holy light. A group of unkillable farmers was also very scary. Villagers, with the help of Sir Priest, our injuries will be healed immediately. We will win. Kill. Village Head and Son hurriedly roared and swung his heavy hammer to continue his attack. Why? Solon looked at Liu in surprise. From Solon's point of view, with Liu's strength, as long as he casually attacked, it would not be difficult to wipe out this group of lizardmen. Why would he let these villagers fight to the death? I can't stay here forever, and I can't protect them all the time. They need to learn how to protect themselves. Liu continuously used Flash of the Holy Light and smiled at Solon. This world is about to face a catastrophe. I want to show them a way to save themselves. Chapter 1391. This priest is really weird. The lizardman voodoo shaman raised his head to look at the battle on the walled city, feeling baffled. This priest's power is really weird. Should I say he's not strong? His continuous large-scale healing spells are really terrifying. But should I say he's strong? Since he's so strong, why doesn't he just attack directly? Is this a priest who only knows healing spells? Specialized in healing spells? Does he not know anything else? They're such a weird guy. Well, humans were just that weird. I'd like to see how you're going to save them. The voodoo shaman raised his staff, and the string of skulls hanging on the wooden staff flashed with a dark red glow. Voodoo curse, plague spell. A dark red light suddenly rushed up, like a cloud of blood, and shrouded the walled city. Voodoo curse spell. Liu smiled and shook his head, then turned to Vivian, who was hugging the black dog and watching the battle. Vivian, it's up to you. Okay. Vivian put down the black dog and raised her hand towards the cloud of blood. Disperse. A bright light shone from Vivian's little hand, like a gust of wind, or like a raging tide. It gushed towards the cloud of blood. The light exploded. The cloud of blood was like snow under the scorching sun, instantly turning into nothingness and dissipating into thin air. More importantly, when this disperse spell swept out, it also dispelled the bloodthirsty rage that the voodoo shaman had cast on the lizardman warrior. Bloodthirsty rage had a huge side effect to begin with. After the effect of the spell ended, the lizardman warrior would enter a weakened state. Now, Vivian had dispelled the bloodthirsty rage, causing the lizardman warrior to enter a weakened state in advance, greatly reducing his strength. The farmers who were engaged in the battle felt as if the enemy had suddenly turned from a tiger into a cat, and the battle became much easier. This little girl is so powerful. The people who were fighting on the walled city saw this scene, and their faces were full of shock, but their hearts were filled with joy. With such a powerful helper, they would definitely win this battle. Damn it! Damn it! The voodoo shaman stomped his feet in anger. Too insidious. Too despicable. The strongest person in this group of humans was actually that little girl. She'd been hiding all this time just to deal with me? But you're underestimating me. The lizard man shaman's cold eyes flashed with ruthlessness. He reached out and took a skull from the wooden staff, holding it in his hand. He clenched his fist, and with a cracking sound, the skull shattered. Voodoo arrow! From the shattered skull, a jet of black smoke rushed out, whistling through the air like a crossbow arrow, shooting toward Vivian. You're courting death. At this moment, Sauron was furious. Of all people to mess with, you actually want to provoke Vivian? Attacking his sister in front of Siscon. You're courting death. Shadow jumped. With a stomp of his feet, Soren slipped into the shadow of the wooden wall and disappeared instantly. The next moment, Soren appeared in the shadow behind the voodoo shaman. Blade storm. The two long and sharp scimitars turned into propellers in Sauron's hands, whistling as they spiraled. The rapidly spinning figure was like a tornado. Puff, puff, puff. Blood splattered, and flesh and blood splattered everywhere. When the blade storm stopped, the voodoo shaman and the dozen or so lizardmen guards around him were all cut into a pile of minced meat. The enemy's leader is dead. We'll win. Kill. Kill these beasts. Ensign roared, and his heavy war hammer smashed down even more fiercely. All right, I can't play anymore. With Sauron's actions, the voodoo shaman, the leader of the lizardmen, was directly cut down. Liu's goal of training these villagers could no longer be achieved. Then let's end this quickly. Liu shook his head and reached for the long sword at his waist. Endless light shone from the blade. Blessings. Aura. The standard buffing set was released, and all the villagers were covered in layers of blessings and layers of aura. The weak villagers had now become a group of fierce tigers. The holy light protects you. Brave warriors, destroy the evil lizard men. Raising his long sword, Liu roared, destroy the lizard men. Village chief and son led this group of farmers to launch a counterattack. With their leader dead and their bloodthirsty rage dispelled, the lizard men broke down. The group of farmers with shining bodies treated the lizard men as if they were goblins. On one side, a farmer smashed a lizard man with a hoe, and on the other side, a farmer cut off a lizard man's head with a sickle. A lizard man was lifted up with a dung fork, and an axe was split open with a lizard man. The undying farmers in their peak states were simply invincible. We're actually so strong. The archer's arrows burst open a lizardman's head with a single arrow. Ha ha! Stinky lizardmen die. The farmer's farming tools were all-powerful weapons of destruction. Eat my sword. This is Burnlock's invincible sword. The village chief's son's confidence skyrocketed, and his crude swordsmanship exploded with tyrannical power. As for Sauron, he had become a meat grinder. Shadow speech, pain. Vivian stood beside Liu and stretched out a finger, pointing at the lizard man. Every time she pointed, a lizard man screamed and fell to the ground. Woof woof. The black dog galloped and slapped a lizard man with its paw. It's not that we're too strong, and it's not that the enemy is too weak. It's... Anson smashed a lizard man with his hammer and turned to look at the figure standing on top of the city wall. He was shocked, as expected of a priest of the holy light. The power of the holy light was indeed strong. Praise the holy light. Anson took a deep breath and raised the heavy hammer in his hand. Kill, he roared. Kill them all. The great battle was over. Under the pursuit of Sauron, Vivian, and the black dog Heath, who were stealing experience, the lizard men were completely wiped out. Not a single one escaped. Victory! Victory! The victorious farmers cheered in high spirits. Victory? That's great! That's great! Hearing the cheers of victory, the women and children in the village also cheered in surprise. Isn't it too early to cheer now? Liu's voice caused the cheering crowd to pause. Defeating the lizard men is just an insignificant victory. Standing on the wooden wall, Liu glanced at the crowd gathered below and pointed at the wilderness in the dark. Do you think the lizard men are the only enemies? Only these lizard men that came today? Today, you defeated the lizard men. What about tomorrow? There are still ogres, gnolls, and countless other evil enemies outside. Can you still defeat them? What's more, did you defeat the enemy with your own strength in this battle? I can't stay here forever. I will leave tomorrow. After I leave, can you still defeat the enemy? Hearing Liu's words, the cheering crowd fell silent and their hearts turned cold. That's right. After the priest leaves, what will we do? Priest, please show us the way. Anson led the villagers and knelt in front of Liu. Very good. Didn't I do so much for this moment? Liu smiled. Chapter 1392. Reverend, please guide us. The villagers knelt on the ground and prayed to Liu for guidance. To defeat the enemy, to protect our home, only power. Liu is shining with a holy light, like a lighthouse in the darkness, illuminating the night sky. Power? Yes. Holy light. The power of the holy light. Anson was a village chief after all, so his brain was more flexible than the average villager. He immediately thought of holy light. Reverend, we feel the holiness and greatness of the holy light. Please give us the power of the holy light. Anson knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing to Liu. Reverend, please give us the power of the holy light. The villagers also reacted and quickly kowtowed with the village chief. The power of the holy light cannot be given. Liu shook his head and stretched out his hand. A holy light shone from his hand. The power of the holy light comes from faith. Modesty, honesty, compassion, justice, valor, honor, protection, sacrifice. These are the virtues of the holy light, and also our faith. To obtain the favor of the holy light, let your faith conform to the virtues of the holy light. Then strengthen your faith and obtain the response of the holy light. Liu waved his hand, and a bright light shone in the sky, enveloping everyone in the village. Men, women, old, and young were all shrouded in the holy light. Feel the holy light. Tell the holy light your faith. As long as your faith conforms to the path of the holy light, as long as your faith is firm, you can obtain the favor of the holy light. Wasn't saving this village to spread the path of the holy light? After this battle, the holy light was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. The people in this village, more or less, believed in the holy light. Although most of them were not true believers, at least they had a good first impression. Feel the holy light? Tell the holy light my faith, and then obtain the response of the holy light. The villagers followed Liu's instructions, closed their eyes, and used their souls to feel the holy light, echoing their faith with the holy light. However, the effect was very poor. After waiting for more than an hour, no one's faith was able to obtain the response of the holy light. Well, a firm belief, a belief that they have to stick to for their entire lives, is still too difficult for these farmers. Liu sighed and shook his head. The farmer's greatest wish was to have enough to eat. There was still a gap between this wish and the path of holy light. Protect. I want to protect my village. I want to protect my home. Just as Liu was about to give up, a brilliant light suddenly burst out from Anson's body. The oath of protection echoed in the holy light. Finally, there's one. I didn't waste my efforts. Liu let out a sigh of relief and nodded at Anson with a smile. Welcome, my companion on the path of holy light. My respects to you, guide of the path of holy light. Village Chief Anson's body glowed with holy light as he bowed to Liu. The village chief has been blessed by the holy light. The village chief has become a priest of holy light. Great. That's great. Although the villagers were a little regretful that they did not receive the blessing of the holy light, they were also very happy to see the village chief become a priest of holy light. With the protection of the village chief, the village would be stable and worry-free from now on. I shouldn't be a priest, right? Village Chief Anson clenched his fists and only felt a powerful force flowing in his body, as if he could break a wall with one punch. This kind of power did not seem to be the power of a spellcaster like a priest. This is a paladin, a powerful warrior with the power of holy light. Liu explained to Village Chief Anson, I am also a paladin. Vivian is a priest. In addition to holy light spells, paladins also have powerful melee combat power. They're different from pure spellcasters like priests. Although Village Chief Anson was more knowledgeable than the villagers. However, his intelligence, spirit, and perception attributes were not up to the standards of a priest. Paladins had higher requirements for strength and physique, and lower requirements for intelligence, spirit, and perception. Village Chief Anson could only become a paladin. I am Victor Solon Antares. Liu's body shone with brilliance, and a halo of holy light appeared on top of his head. Holy wings stretched out behind him, as if a god had descended to the mortal world. Victor? So it's you. The miracle of Amber City had spread, and Victor's name had become a household name. Hearing Liu's origin, Village Chief Anson was surprised and delighted, and hurriedly bowed to Liu. My respects to you, Your Highness Victor. You are the emissary of holy light, the embodiment of light and justice, the god walking on earth. Greetings, Your Highness Victor, Your Highness emissary of holy light. Victor's identity was the Pope of the Church of Holy Light. Such a person was the noblest big shot in any country. The villagers all bowed to greet him. No need to be so polite, get up. Holy light shone, and like flowing water, it permeated the entire village. Under the baptism of this holy light, all the people in the village, whether they were sick or injured, were healed in the baptism of holy light. Since there was a paladin here, it would inevitably become a territory to spread the faith of the holy light. Liu naturally had to show his divinity in front of the people. Ah, my headache is gone. The broken bones in my feet are also healed. Me too. My illness is also cured. Praise the holy light. At this moment, the villagers' faith in the holy light became even stronger. Everyone, please rise. Liu smiled and nodded. Villagers, the danger is not far away. We are still under the threat of evil. The evil creatures of the Carmel Mountains have migrated and invaded human territory. This war has just begun. Your Highness Victor, the newly promoted paladin, village chief Anson Locke, knelt in front of Liu with a heavy hammer. Your Highness, although I have received the blessing of the holy light, my strength is still very weak. Your Highness, please advise me on how to protect my home and defeat evil. On the path of justice, you need companions. Paladin Anson, there are still many people in this world who do not understand the greatness of the holy light and the holiness of the holy light. Tell them where the holy light is. Only by gathering countless companions can we finally defeat evil. This was Liu's goal. I will follow your teachings. Your Highness Victor. Anson nodded solemnly. Yes, only by gathering a group of righteous companions can we defeat evil. I can teach the people in the village how to feel the holy light and how to receive the blessing of the holy light. Similarly, I can also teach the people in the other villages and let them feel the holy light. Gathering a group of righteous companions, we will definitely defeat evil. Anson, although you have received the blessing of the holy light and become a paladin, however, you still lack the training of a paladin. Swordsmanship, horsemanship, and holy light spells need to be learned. We don't have so much time to learn. I can only use the holy light inheritance imprint to imprint these skills in your mind. Liu flicked his finger and a ray of holy light fell on top of Anson's head, packing these skills and giving Anson a full skill set cheat. The holy light inheritance imprint can be inherited. When you perform holy light enlightenment on others, if they can receive the blessing of the holy light, you can also give them a holy light inheritance imprint. This was a cheat. However, there was no other way. How long did it take to train a paladin? Count Antares said that without more than 10 years of training, there was no way to become an official paladin. How could you have the time to open a training class? Then he could only use a cheat. He had always been using a cheat, so what if he used it one more time? Whoever was not convinced, step forward. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.